How it's supposed to feel. Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
Who's going to break Haystack's world title?
For my Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And look at these two go! Ewan's going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been!
It was only 2 weeks ago when we started the Formula SimRacing VCO World Championship in 2023 with a historic win for Jake Dennehan after a last lap pass on three-time champion Ewan Simicic. We're ready for round two now though, and for the first time since 2017 we visit Barcelona for one of the more flowing circuits on this year's calendar. 14 turns around the course today over the course of 66 laps to decide the winner of round two in the World Championship this year. Welcome to tonight's coverage. My name is Ewan. I'm alongside Zach Sweeney for the race. It's great to have you here, Zach. We had a fantastic opening round and it's only whetted the appetite for more over the course of 2023.
It really has set the precedent for what should be a very historic season. I mean, Jake Dennehan has been so impressive since the back end of 2022. Kickstarted 2023 with the pre-season championship victory and, well, kickstarted his main campaign for the Formula SimRacing 2023 VCO World Championship with his first ever top 10 and his first ever victory as well. So a great way to get your first top 10, Jake Dennehan. But yeah, onwards and upwards from here. I can't wait to see what we got in Barcelona.
It is the circuit you can see on the right-hand side there. 14 corners around this circuit and no chicane at the end either, Zach, which is going to be a key talking point throughout this race. Traditionally, this circuit has felt like, it could do without that final chicane on occasion. We'll see how that affects the racing, but I don't think we are going to have any worries about racing this season, if I'm honest with you, because of what we saw at Bahrain. I know it's a very different circuit around Barcelona, but there should be plenty of opportunities tonight.
Absolutely. I think the very extensive talent that we've got on the grid, new big names in eSports coming to join us, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And yeah, I mean, Barcelona in the real world, it's not necessarily famed for very entertaining races. It has had a couple, but in the virtual worlds, that none of that matters. And I think with the removal of the final chicane as well, it just makes the track flow so much nicer. And with DRS and slipstream and just the sheer competitiveness on this grid, I think we're in for some pretty barnstorming 66 laps.
You can see the championship standings on the right hand side there with Jake Dennehan at the top after a race victory in the first one. It was a double podium for Burst with Ewan Simicic and David Mocek. They lead the team standings, you won't be surprised to learn after that. Jan Grankvist was fourth behind just ahead of Dennis Jordan, who really rose through the order at the very end of that race with the likes of Adam Maguire struggling on tyres towards the end. Peter Burliak stealthed his way into 7th, with Alex Siebel not quite able to hold the pace of his teammate there. He finished down in 8th. Liam DeVal was 9th ahead of Tom Lottie, who got into the top 10 in that race. Reigning champion, I should say. Colin Sport, 11th in the opening race at Bahrain. This is the schedule we have this season. And as we were speaking about just before we came on air, Zach, a lot of throwback circuits, if you like, for the Formula SimRacing World Championship. We have seen the likes of Spa, Sao Paulo, Monza, Silverstone in the recent times, but not so much of Bahrain, Barcelona and Montreal. And for the first time in 6 years, we head to Spain for this circuit, and it's nice to see it back on the calendar.
I think we've got a brilliant calendar. So obviously a lot of work has been done behind the scenes to put this together, scheduling, etc., etc. And the venues that we go to, making sure that the tracks are up to date and they all work properly and everything looks pretty. But the tracks themselves are absolutely amazing. Barcelona today, again, is going to be fantastic. Montreal, Silverstone, Imola, Spa, Monza, Suzuka, Sao Paulo. I mean, they do the talking for themselves. So many historic circuits, so many memorable circuits, and ones that have really given some fantastic moments across sim racing and, of course, in Formula Sim Racing as well. So, yeah, I don't know. We've got 9 races, which is a bit of an odd number, but I think they're 9 pretty good tracks to go to, and I just can't wait to see how the season develops as we go on, because it surely is going to be a very, very close one.
Yeah, it's exactly an odd number as far as maths goes.
So,
so there we are. Shortest season we've ever had in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, and quite a late start as well. But that does mean the action is going to come thick and fast over the course of 2023. We've just got a few minutes left in practice now, about 5 minutes remaining until we step forward into qualifying. And here we are stepping into the session on what looks like a very nice day in Barcelona at the moment. Temperatures should be relatively high out there on the circuit, so we'll make of that what we will at by the end of the race and throughout indeed as well over the course of this one. We do have the full contingent of 30 as well on the grid, as opposed to the 29 that I believe we had for the opening race of the season. 28 got to the finish, 2 DNFs as Danny Van Der Leek and Yannick Bock in the previous race. Few talking points from the previous race to go with, and I'll start with Yannick Bock, who I mentioned there, part of the virtual drivers by TX3 team, and they unfortunately hit each other going up towards turn 4, if you remember, in that opening round. I think they've got a lot to prove here in this next race. There he is making his way out of the pit lane. The very distinctive liveries that they have, be looking to put them to good use here this afternoon, because it was real promising actually in qualifying for them, but not so promising as soon as we ended lap 1.
Yeah, I mean, it is such a shame to get the season underway in such fashion. It's literally the last thing you want to come to blows that early on, and again, it just sets casts a shadow really over the season as a whole. So hopefully they're going to get rid of that shadow today and start anew, refresh themselves, come back fully composed. And today, I think the most important thing for virtual drivers by TX3, Yannick Bock in particular, potentially, is literally just to get a decent result, just to get the season kick-started again, and spark some confidence in themselves, because they've definitely got the pace, they've got the potential, they're a fantastic outfit across sim racing. They're one of those that you go into any competition that they're in, and they chances are competing towards the top level of it. So yeah, I think we are looking to hopefully see Yannick Bock improve just that little bit more and take that first step really to start his campaign.
And speaking of taking first steps towards maybe a race win, Jonas Braksuk might well do that today. It was another round at Bahrain where we thought, is today going to be the day? Is Jonas Braksuk finally going to win an FSR World Championship race? But no, it wasn't to be on that occasion. Had technical problems, if you remember, down towards turn number 1. Ended up recovering to 24th, but you don't score any points for down there. So he'll be looking to get his tally off to a good start here today instead. And we'll see what he has to offer for us, as that is a humongous accident for one of the drivers coming out of turn 9. That could well be a talking point throughout the day as well. We've just got over 2.5 minutes remaining in practice. We'll step forward towards qualifying very soon. There's no longer a limit on the amount of laps that you can do in a qualifying session in the World Championship any longer. It used to be 3 flying laps. That is not the case anymore. And with a fairly short lap around here of a 1:11.4 at the moment for Adam Maguire, there's going to be quite a few opportunities, and maybe there will be more than 3 chances around this circuit. At Bahrain, the new ruling didn't make a difference, but maybe here it will.
Yeah, I can see them, doing, maybe 4. Maybe they can squeeze in the 5th lap as well. It all depends on, obviously, what they want to do. It is hard to do the back-to-back laps with the tyre degradation and things, so maybe they can get to that point. Who knows? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. It's a bit of a change to what we're used to, and I do like how they're not limited to it. They can do as many as they can feasibly fit into it. It means it slightly changes the dynamic of the qualifying session. It's not necessarily just a banker, a slightly bit more of a push, and then an all at it. You can sort of develop as the session goes on. But qualifying around here, I think, is going to be, to be fair, I was about to say, is slightly important. I don't actually think it is going to set the tone of the race entirely like we would see it, slightly tighter tracks. But I do think qualifying well is going to be quite a bit of an aid around here. So however many laps you are able to do, I think they are going to count.
What about Jone Simoncic as well, who you can see on your screen at the moment here? this afternoon. I mean, it's second place in the opening race. Do we think Jake Denahan's going to be one of those who can stay with him all the way to the end of the championship? Is Ewan Simicic still the man to beat here, or is it up to anyone else? This is what happened with that crash earlier on, by the way. It was Jonas Braksok who found the wall in quite a big way. Is Simicic's favourite for the title here? Is it someone else? Is it more unpredictable than that? What are you thinking in terms of an overall champion in this short season?
Well, we've got so much talent, so I don't really know if we can read much into it based off just the single round. I mean, Jake Danahan is a very promising talent, as I say, throughout the back end of 2022 with the stock car series that we ran during the sort of the autumn and the winter times, able to take the championship in that, then the preseason, and now coming out of the gates with a win. I think he's just going with each stepping stone, and it's building his confidence and fueling his improvement. So Jake Danahan definitely is a shout, but Ewan Simicic, he's the veteran. He knows how to win a championship, if you like. He knows how to deal with the pressure and put that commitment in, week in, week out, to make sure that he's delivering on a consistent basis. But also don't count out Colin Spork, the reigning champion as well. While he is young, he has got a boatload of experience. But then again, we name those three, you look at the entire field and think, well, some of them could at least have an outside shot at the bare minimum podiums or wins, but the championship, I think, is something else entirely, which, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see in towards the back end of October.
We will indeed. It's a long way until then. Nearly 5 months of racing to go from now until then. You're watching the Formula Sim Racing VCO World Championship for 2023. This is round 2 from Barcelona. Welcome one and all for listening in and watching here this evening. My name is Ewan Leary alongside Zach Sweeney for the 66 laps of racing we are about to embark on. Qualifying will begin very, very shortly as practice comes to an end. It's Adam Maguire who's going to have the best time at the end of that one, with the reigning champion, Colin Spork, all of a sudden looking a little bit feisty as well, up towards the front in that session. It's qualifying now, though, and it's all about getting that opening lap in quite well as well here, Zach. We didn't really see a lot of change after the opening lap, actually, at Bahrain. It was really about that opening lap, and that's what especially got the likes of Jake Denahan up towards the front and a number of others as well. I wonder how important the opening lap is going to be around this circuit, or whether it will be entirely different all over again.
Again, we're stepping into the unknown in terms of that regard. I think, with the track temps quite high, getting that first lap in is definitely going to be a big help when the tyres potentially are, at their best. But also from a mental standpoint as well. If you can start the session well, you can carry that forward and feel secure, knowing that your first lap was good enough that you can sort of let the reins off a little bit and try and push for more throughout the rest of the session. If you're one of those drivers that struggle to kickstart a qualifying session and put a good banker lap time in, the rest of your laps are actually spent, backing off a little bit, worrying about putting a lap time in, as opposed to actually going for a very, very quick lap. So, yeah, to kickstart the 10-minute session, I think, get a good lap time on the board and then worry about the rest later.
Yes, absolutely. Qualifying just beginning then, 9 minutes remaining of this 10-minute session, but of course everyone has to do an outlap here. And as you can see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, it's all going to happen at once here, so do excuse us for likely missing the fastest time first time round, because everybody's going to come across the line all at the same time here. It is a solo session, though. You don't have to worry about finding free track space, which really would be a problem with 30 cars out on the grid. It's the biggest grid we've had in a World Championship field for quite some time. For example, when we were last here for the World Championship back in 2017, we only had 22 cars on the grid. Only 14 got to the end of the race, and only 11 of those were on the lead lap by the end of the race. But it was only half a second between Mohamed Patel, who was victorious, and Ewan Simicic as well, who was in that second position on that occasion. Of course, that was on the way to Mohamed Patel's first and so far only FSR World Championship as things stand so far. We go on board with the reigning champion, though, Colin Spork for Alpine eSports, who wasn't really at the races last or a couple of weeks ago. What can he produce for us at Barcelona? Early showing is that he will be up there.
Absolutely. Throughout practice, he put it into second place, which is always a good confidence boost going in. Of course, the amount of hours that go into practice and things. Colin Spork, a mightily quick driver, and maybe he just works around a circle like this. Maybe the setup works. Maybe him as a driver just flows really, really nicely, setting himself up nice through the final sector. As we watch the first set of lap times come in, as it stands, Adam Maguire fastest through the first sector, with Peter Burlak the fastest through the middle. Colin Sport, though, nice and consistent. Yannick Brakshock sets the benchmark. What can Colin Sport do across the line? Is it going to get him into a competitive place? And no, 7th place on his first lap. I'm sure he'd have expected more with that one.
He would have done. Adam Maguire is on the pole at the moment with an 11.4. He did do that in practice as well, but not quite as quick on that occasion. We've got Dennis Jordan in the final couple of corners at the moment. This is Mika Hakimi on an outlap for Arnage Brabham. Over the line at the moment for Dennis Jordan, and he will jump up to only 17th, although only half a second away. It's remarkable how close this session is in the World Championship this season. And has been for quite some time, as everybody makes outlaps again. Only 3 temps back to Alex Siebel, who's in 11th place. And I know it's a relatively short circuit, but it's a hard circuit around here at Barcelona. The early times are pretty close, though. It's Maguire versus Berliak at the front, although, as we saw last 2 weeks ago, are we going to see those times just stick from the very start to the very end of this session, or are we going to get a bit of a change this time?
Well, again, we'll have to wait and see towards the end of the session if that's going to be the case. I mean, they're back out on their outlaps. They'll prepare. They'll go again. I doubt they've peaked so early on, but again, we would have said the same thing a couple of weeks ago in terms of peaking so early on in the session. So, I mean, with how close and competitive it is, you have to, be at the top of your game. And when you're at the top of the game, there's not really much that you can do in terms of improving. You have to nail each and every single corner, a near perfect lap. And even then, you might only bump yourself up a couple of places because of how close it is. 3 tenths between first and P11 is absolutely insane. The top 25 separated by just under 9 tenths of a second. While yes, it is a shorter lap, that is still an insane amount of competition. And it all starts here in qualifying. And well, I was talking about how difficult it is to. Well, not necessarily how difficult it is to overtake at Barcelona, how maybe raceable it could be, but with how close and competitive it is, it's going to be hard to make that difference in the race and fight your way through. So it's those small differences, literally thousandths of a second now in qualifying, that could very easily tell the tale of a very different race.
Absolutely. By the way, Mitchell Hoyer is not on the grid today as things stand. Tom Oldenmenger is replacing him here this afternoon. Hoyer was down in 14th in the opening race of the season, trying to get confirmation on why he's not here on this occasion, but it isn't for whatever reason. A little bit further down for Carlos Martin at the moment. He's 22nd in the qualifying session, but going a little bit quicker here in the opening lap. Adam Maguire is going purple as well in the middle sector, and that's the only purple sector we're really seeing on this second round of times. Through the final corner for the Spaniard now, he'll go over the line and he'll jump up to 16th, but it's not that much of an improvement really. Maguire is going to come around the final corner as of right now, and he goes over the line with a slight improvement. A 1:11.4 from Maguire, and Liam Duval, his teammate, has joined him inside that top 3. It's a wonderful start to the qualifying session at the moment for RHG eSports.
Absolutely sensational stuff. And then obviously it's RHG Alpine for the top 2 rows. Incredible stuff. Alex Siebel, a little bit twitchy out the final corner, not really looking to improve on this lap. I don't really see any major buffs there. Nope. And he stays at where he was. Tom Lastly, very impressive stuff up there in 11th place, it must be said. He was able to scrape himself in the top 10 at Bahrain, despite the fact that, well, this season is his open wheel debut. So he is really impressed and amongst some of the best on rFactor 2 and here for Formula Sim Racing. But yeah, I mean, I think we are seeing the same as we saw a couple of weeks ago, in the sense that not really many people can find that much of an improvement throughout the session.
Not quite at the moment. We've got Oldenmenger, by the way, at the bottom of the standings, and maybe showing the lack of preparation he's had going into this one. Hoyer's wheel is a little bit broken at the moment. Struggled to qualify in the Virtual Endurance Championship yesterday, and has decided not to race here today. He did actually do a bit of testing for this race, so clearly did intend to race, but is not able to at the moment. We're also hearing as well of a grid penalty for Mark Slutton in the where is he at the moment? 8th place. He's got an 8th place grid penalty, so he'll be 16th at the moment for causing the lap 1 incident at Bahrain. That, I believe, up towards turn 4 where he hit his teammate, and has got a fairly hefty penalty as a result of that. So that's something to note when you can look at the top 10 there. Tom Lartelu, though, is going very quickly at the moment for Race Clutch. There he is. Ooh. Coming into the final sector. Personal best in the first, purple in the middle.
This is looking like a very tidy lap then from the Race Clutch driver. He's got just 2 more corners left to go. flying through the penultimate corner there. I love the fact that we haven't got the chicane. Just got to keep it nice and tidy, keep the vehicle under wraps and across the line. It's a 10th off pole position. It's 4th place from Rd.2. That is very, very impressive stuff. And a 10th separating the top 2 rows. Wow.
Outside of the second row at the moment for Tom Lartaloo. It's Adam Maguire back in the pit lane at the moment, so that might well be it for his session, although he does still have time. Colin Spork is improving at the moment in the first couple of sectors, but does need to find half a tenth here to move on to the second row. Burlak also going quicker. He's through the final corner, one of the Netrex drivers going up towards and over the line right now. And it's not Colin Spork, don't know who that was, but here is Spork over the line for him from 5th place, still remains 5th despite improving. Petr Burlak is through the final corner at the moment as well, with personal best in the first, purple in the middle, but he's got off at the final turn. He will drop down as Lalu jumps up to 29th, a long way back at the moment. It looks like all of the top 10 are content to sit where they are. Some of them will have one more chance, but for the most part they won't. I think Burlak was very close to pole there if he hadn't have had that problem through the very final corner.
Yeah, should have, could have, would have potentially from Petr Burlak. When the pressure's that high, it's so easy to make mistakes like that. You can see Williams pushing the limits through at 10-12 into 13 and through the final corner. Just 5 tenths off pole and outside of the top 20. That is absolute insanity. Is there going to be any improvement? White to the final sector. That means no improvement to his personal best and stays where he was. But yeah, well, for Burlak, it's what could have been potentially, and well, he sits on the front row still. So I mean, at least there's that. It's not, you know, like he's completely written off the qualifying session. I think that drag race towards turn number 1, he's still got definitely a good chance of attacking Maguire in the opening stages.
It certainly does. It's not over by any means. Just over half a minute remaining, and there's a lot of drivers starting one last lap, including the current pole sitter, Adam Maguire. Dennis Jordan at the moment, the only one to be improving out on his lap time in the first sector, as is Stavros Mouzadis actually, who's in the 24th position. There you can see him making his way up towards the fearsome turn 9. That is getting more and more flat out with each year that passes. It's purple in the first sector though for Adam Maguire, who's got 7/100ths of a second over the field at the moment with 10 seconds remaining in this qualifying session. He might well have enough for pole here already. I think he's just making absolutely sure.
Yeah, it's just more of a contingency plan more than anything. Just put the lap in if you can, or just to show what you really can do. Extract the most you can out of the car. Stavros Mouzadis across the line, 24th at the moment, 18th across, takes the checkered flag. Purple and an improvement to the middle sector. Adam Maguire's on for a stonking lap here.
This could be the first 1:11.3 that we've seen in the server here across practice and qualifying as well. Nobody else inside the top 5's improving. It looks like a victory lap here for Adam Maguire, but he's going to sign off in style over the line. It's a 1:11.3. He makes absolutely sure that he clinches pole position here in Barcelona for the second round of the FSR VCO World Championship of 2023. Janis Braksok goes across the line and will go second. That's a very good lap time from him to jump up towards the front row. Mark Suter here is going to have an 8th place grid drop from where he starts on the grid here and will want to improve. It will be 20th at best for him as a result of that penalty. It's going to be Maguire and Braksok on the front row unless Deval can do anything about it. He can't. And so RHE and Arnage will share the front row.
What a qualifying session that was. What a lap that was from Janis Braksok as well, right in the death of it, to get himself up onto the front row. Brilliant stuff. But Adam Maguire, that lap right at the end has sealed him pole position here today, and a very, very important one indeed. But I think we are in for a brilliant display here for round 2.
We certainly are. He's only ever been on pole once before as Adam Maguire, and he's now doubled that tally and added a second to his list. He'll be looking for a better finish though. He's never finished higher than 7th in the World Championship before, and there he is with the best possible opportunity to do so. Alongside Janis Braksok, who qualifies well for the second round in a row, Petr Burlak and Liam Deval will be on row 2 with Tom Lartaloo and reigning champion Colin Spork. Then Jan Grakvist and Yannick Bock on row 4, ahead of Robin Panzer and Mika Hakimi, who's less than a quarter of a second away, down in 10th. Jone Simičić is down in 11th ahead of Mark Suter in the qualifying order. He'll drop down for the race with Zolczuk's 13th, the 2 Ferraris 14th and 15th, Siebel leading Jordan. Then the first round winner Jake Denahan is 16th ahead of the 2 Visceral cars sharing row 9. Then it's Netrex and Valle on row 10 with Carlos Martin and Stavros Mouzadis still within half a second of pole. Kostas Van Vukas is in 11th ahead of Giordano Valeriano. Then it's Matt Williams and David Mocek, who's way down as well, despite finishing on the podium 2 weeks ago. Sander Callas and Cosmo Prosciutto share row 13 with Danny Van Der Neet and Demian Skrovron. Jukka-Pekka Lalu and Tom Oldenburger round out the 30-car grid. No burst cars in the top 10 has got to be a first for quite some time, Zach.
Yeah, it's not really often that you see that at all. That is very interesting. Very, I think it speaks more about how close that grid was, in the sense that even some of the best couldn't quite manage to get themselves inside that top 10 bracket. I think all of our podium finishes from 2 weeks ago didn't manage to get inside the top 10 today in qualifying, which I think speaks volumes as to how good of a season this is going to be. Jake Danahan, Jone Simoncic and David Mocek all have a lot of work to do carving their way through the field if they want to maintain their championship stances going into the rest of the season.
They certainly do. Just have a look, though, at those who were top of the order in the race 2 weeks ago and where they've qualified. Jake Danahan, race winner, is down in 14th. Second place, Jone Simoncic was down in 11th place. David Mocek was at 24th at the end of that session there, I believe. An absolutely unbelievable session, really, to see those top runners down towards the back. Granqvist, I think, is the only one who finished inside the top 5 last race to be in the top 10 here in qualifying. It's one of the most unpredictable World Championships we've seen for quite some time here, Zach, because in previous years, we've sometimes known one clear favourite, and it's not budged from that, especially in the Jone Simoncic years, thinking especially of 2021 possibly, where he was pretty dominant, but some of the others as well. I mean, it's not like that in the World Championship this year. It could go to absolutely anybody.
And I'm all here for it. I think it's such a good thing to have that unpredictability, that competitiveness from week by week, race by race, different drivers coming into the spotlight, and I think it puts a more of a strain on consistency, on that pressure to deliver week in, week out. It might not be winning every single round. It might just be being able to scrape a decent position in qualifying and then slowly but surely work your way towards maybe the mid part of the top 10 in the race. That is going to be the difference, I think, between winning and losing this championship. Obviously, on your day, maximise those opportunities, but in a season where potentially each and every single one of these drivers could at the very least get a top 10, a top 5 podium win, whatever it is so competitive, and it is going to be the smallest of margins that separate the differences between some of the best drivers on the platform.
This is, of course, the first VCO World Championship season that uses hybrid technology here in 2023, and that's going to be a big talking point and a big thing to watch throughout the race as well. We saw with Jake Danahan and Jone Simoncic, it was about saving that energy and then unleashing it right on the very last lap, as Danahan did, to dive into race-winning position on the very final lap of that race. It's going to be a talking point around here, though, Zach, because you spend a lot of time full throttle around here. It's a very flowing circuit. It's quite twisty, but also you spend a lot of time on these straights full throttle between them, because you don't actually slow down that much throughout these corners most of the time, especially with the small looping hairpin we have down at turn 10 now, and the obviously complete getting rid of the final chicane as well. It means that you are full throttle for a little bit longer than you otherwise would be. You're never really going that slowly, and so managing that hybrid boost is going to be really, really important over the course of 66 laps.
Absolutely, and it is going to separate, I think, the good from the great, and separate those that were able to put a good lap in qualifying and those that can manage their racecraft throughout the entire 66 laps. As you say, a lot more medium speed corners. So I mean, the heaviest braking zone, yes, you've got turn number 1, but in cars like these, you're going to brake, you're going to downshift a few times, you're going to chuck the car in. Again, it's more just a case of braking just that little bit to get the car slowed down and pitch the front end in, as opposed to a very tight hairpin corner. We've taken away the stop-start nature of the final sector as well, so you haven't actually got a lot of time to reharvest and save some energy in these hybrid power units. So yeah, it is going to be very difficult. Picking when to use your hybrid deployment is going to be a very skillful decision, because you don't want to dump it all too early and then be a sit and duck for the rest of the race, but you don't want to dump it all too late and be nowhere at the end of the race to actually be able to use it to full effect. So it is going to be a very big balancing act, and just one of those extra things that the drivers have to take into account.
And there are a lot of those over the course of this race. It is only round 2 of the championship, but it's a short season. Every race going to be just as important as the last and the next here over the course of this season. Warm-up has finished. We'll get that starting grid to you as soon as we get it, and then we'll be underway for the race here this afternoon. The first time Barcelona has been used in a VCO World Championship race since 2017. That was quite a crash for Danny Van Der Dee, I'm afraid. He's on fire. I'm not in a good way at the final corner. Hopefully not having the same fate during the race, as he's already got 1 DNF to his name yet this season, as I mentioned earlier on, after not finishing at Bahrain 2 weeks ago. 30 drivers will be ready on the grid very shortly, though, for what is going to be a fantastic race here. Strategy going to play into this one as well. How many stops, which tyre compounds are you going to use when, and all of that kind of thing to factor in over the course of the day. And we'll try and keep on top of it the best we can. Hopefully, though, it's going to be just as thoroughly entertaining as we saw at the Bahrain Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. Jake Dennehan was victorious there after a last lap pass over Ewan Simicic in a double burst eSport podium. He scored with David Mrocek in that opening race. They, of course, lead the team's championship as a result, ahead of NX27, who Jake Dennehan drives for in the 2023 season. They are going to be 2 teams to watch in that regard. Starting grid will be coming your way very soon, and we'll show you that when we possibly can. But it's going to be Adam Maguire with his second ever World Championship pole position on the front, and as I said earlier on, 7th place as his best result so far in this in the World Championship. He's never finished higher than that. And now is a fantastic chance to do so. Jonas Braxok's got a great chance to get his first win as well. Despite all the podiums he's got, he's never been able to win a race. The formation lap is underway, and here comes the starting grid with Adam Maguire and Braxok on the front. Peter Berliak, 2015 World Champion, 3rd place ahead of the other RHE eSports driver, Liam Duval, who's there in 4th. 5th position will be Tom Larson for Race Clutch, ahead of reigning World Champion Colin Sport, then Jan Breakfast, and Yannick Bock, who will be looking for a cleaner lap 1 than he saw at the Bahrain Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. Rounding out the top 10, it's Robin Panzer and Mika Hakimi, the latter of which is making his debut season in the World Championship here in 2023. 3-time champion Ewan Simicic is just behind him, with Zoltsuits for Ground Effect in 12th. The 2 Ferraris share row 7 with Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan. Then it's Jake Dennehan, race winner 2 weeks ago, 15th here in qualifying, of Darius Andre for Visceral Esports. His teammate Martin Mergley is just behind, with Carlos Martin of Netrex in 18th. Then it's Stavros Moutadis and Mark Sluter, who drops down to 20th with an 8th place grid penalty after qualifying 12th. 21st will be Kostas Van Bukas ahead of Giordano Valeriano for Valor. Then it's going to be Matt Williams, who won 4 pro races in 2022. David Mrocek, despite being on the podium 2 weeks ago, is only 24th. Sander Callas and Cosmo Prosciutto are on row 13 ahead of Danny Van Der Neet and Damian Skrovron, with the final row of the grid being made up by Jukka-Pekka Laulu and Tom Oldermenger here for the 66 laps. Well, Zach, it's going to be very, very interesting. It's a jumbled up order, it has to be said, but there's huge opportunities for some at the front who have never won a race in this championship.
Absolutely. Liam Duval also one searching for that maiden victory. It is a race with so much potential, and I'm hoping, and in all fairness, I'm sure it is going to deliver on that potential. With how close it is, it opens the door in terms of strategy and trying something different to get the edge over your opponents. But there is so much at stake, not only for the championship with the shorter calendar, but there's also, you know, just the stakes in terms of personal achievements, personal highs to go for as well. They line up on the grid and we'll be underway for 66 laps.
We will indeed. There they are. Adam Maguire pulling into position first on what is the medium tyres, I believe. The top 10 have all gone for mediums. And then outside of that, it's mostly hard tyres. But we'll get that to you a little bit more as we get going throughout this race. Well, we're almost raring to go for this one. Returning to the land of Spain for the first time in 6 years. The lights coming on now for the first time since 2017 at Barcelona. The lights are on and they are out. We're underway, and one of them goes nowhere. Tom Lartelu goes nowhere, and there's chaos on the front straight. He's going to drop down massively off of the start here. Adam Maguire defending towards turn 1 with Braxok on the outside, and they'll go side by side in towards turn 1 and but stay in the positions they qualified. Duval gets up to 3rd. He's ahead of Peter Berliak now, who slips into the clutches of his teammate Colin Sport. who's in the 5th position, just defending from Yannick Bock, who has a go up towards turn 4. He'll go on the outside line at the moment through that corner. He won't get anywhere though by the looks of things. It's a clean start at the front, but not for Tom Lartalou, who went nowhere, and his teammate Robin Panzer was caught up in the mess as well.
Huge news. That is such a shame after such a good qualifying. Whatever the reason was, I can't really put a definitive answer on that, but he just didn't move, as you all saw, and the chaos that ensued was absolutely massive. It opened the door for some people to try and pick their way through, but I think it was more just a case of not getting into a crash. Alex Siebel trying to move his way past Darius Andre and get himself inside the top 10, but well, the first lap is underway, and what a way to kickstart round number 2. That is absolutely massive, but yet still the top 2, no changes between the pair of them.
Once again, I was calling the tyre compound wrong. Colin Spork, I believe anyway, is on the hard tyres at the moment, as is Adam Maguire, as you can see inside the top 10. Yannick Simičić qualified outside of it, as did Darius Andre, but they've both moved into it, having started on the hard compound here at the opening of this race. Side by side towards turn 1 there with Spork defending from Bock in towards turn 1. Simičić goes a little bit wide as well, allowing Mika Hakimi to close in. In fact, that's a positional change for the Burst eSport driver. Simičić already up to 7th, and that's a 4-position gain in only a lap and a bit for the 3-time champion. That's a very good start from him.
And on the hard compound tyres as well, let's not forget, so he's had to really get those tyres up to temperature, which with 38.3 track temperature probably shouldn't be too difficult, but yeah, the harder compound does seem to be working for the 3-time champion. He's picking his way through one by one and, well, lining up Bock maybe to move his way up in a 6th, but after what was, not the qualifying that Simičić would have wanted, I think he's really taken this race by storm and getting off on the best foot, because again, he knew that the qualifying wasn't to standard on the opening stages. While everyone's nice and bunched up together, while the chaos ensued, he was the one to benefit, and let's see what the progress is going to be from here on in.
Indeed, Colin Spork's tyres have now changed, and he isn't on hards either. But I do believe that Simičić is on those, and those graphics will now be correct from now on, since we're on lap 2. This is Tom Oldemega, who escaped the pit lane at least in the opening lap, but did have to skirt around some of the chaos. In fact, we saw loads of drivers down pit lane after the opening lap. I think Grankvist, Pasuto, Squadron and Panzer have all been into the pit lane as a result of lap 1. But I think they've all returned to the circuit. They have indeed, although Panzer's a lap down. And there is Panzer, is it? Out of the first turn? Well, it's got to be, because Tom Lartalou is out of the race. So Panzer has already gone a lap down, and now he's getting out the way of everybody down towards the back of the field, which is a bit of a bizarre one. But out front, it's still Adam Maguire leading ahead of Jonas Braxop, then Liam de Waal, Peter Perlak, Colin Spork, your top 5, ahead of the rest, like Yannick Bock following on behind. The DRS train also, though, Zach, has been changed for this race. You only need to be within a second at Bahrain. Now you need to be within 7/10, which will just increase that pressure on everybody a little bit.
Yeah, you can't rely as much on the car in front to just pull you along. You've got to put the pressure on them. You've got to get just that little bit closer. And while you might be sat there thinking, well, 0.3 of a second means nothing when you've got hybrid deployment and, slipstream and things like that. It should be easy to close the gap. The difference between 7/10 and a second can be, a big change to get into. So, yeah, for Jonas Braxop, I mean, right now, it's borderline, just about a 10th and a half between himself and Adam Maguire. There's not much in it whatsoever, and while the gap lead isn't much, it could very easily expand just as easily. With a small mistake from Braxop, could see him fall out of DRS from Adam Maguire, which I think DRS is going to play quite a big factor here today. So that 7/10 margin is going to be paramount to stay within, for monitoring your hybrid usage with a circuit that is quite, straight line speed dependent. You spend a lot of time at full throttle, the back straight and the pit straight, of course, as well. Yeah, that slipstream, that DRS is going to be very important. So you've got to stay within that 7/10 margin.
You absolutely do, and for now, Jonas Braxop has done that out front. This is Jake Dennehan, who's back in the pack at the moment. 12th place for the race winner from 2 weeks ago, but that's an improvement at the very least on 16th, which is where he started this one. He's on the hard tyres at the moment, and we'll see how far he can take those in the opening of this race. We're looking at similar boundaries, really, in terms of laps to pit here, because of the similar amount of laps in this race. This is the view from Tom Lartalou, I believe, who just went nowhere off at the start. You're going to see engine smoke here in a couple of moments. Well, actually, you're not, but because that's already happened. He does go nowhere, though. There's the smoke. that has ended up causing it. Front wing and rear wing both gone. And it causes chaos off the start, including Jan Grankvist, who lost his front wing there immediately. He's already out of the race, which is real disappointment for the driver who finished 4th at Bahrain.
Yeah, there's not really much that you can do at all in that situation. Everyone's so close together. You know, there's not that big of a gap between each of the rows as well. So you've got to get the car, you know, off the starting grid and then immediately turn while you're trying to build up traction. If you try and swerve, you're probably going to spin the rear wheels or find yourself into the side of another car. Then the people behind the initial phase of those trying to react then have to swerve out the way as well, because they, you know, haven't seen the stoppage as of yet. So yeah, it's all just a lot of chaos, and this is what it caused down in towards turn number 1, and just pinched once again. That is Robin Panzer having an issue. The first car over the curb. And, well, even more. Just look at that. That is absolutely insane. And, well, probably one of the last things as a driver you want to see in the opening moments.
Yeah, so Demian Skrovron is the burst driver, spinning around with no front wing in there. Mrocek and Oldermenger were both caught up in all of that as well. As you can see, Panzer was who dropped down the order as a result of all of that. Lap 6 then of this race, over the line again for Adam Maguire, who still leads for R8G. But Jonas Brakstuk right now it finds himself in an increasingly squashed sandwich with Liam Duval just closing in from behind. 2 Alpine cars in the top 5 as well. Onage very much on their own here. Onage Brabham very much on their own with Jonas Brakstuk. Although Mika Hakimi is inside the top 10 in his first ever FSR World Championship season. He has had a decent start and did make a good account of himself at Bahrain, although no points to his name in this championship yet. Matt Williams is also making his full season debut this season for Royal Blue. He's back in the pack at the moment, and important phases in the race coming up for some of these drivers like Williams, like Martin as well, because they're on the medium tyres, stuck in traffic, and they need to make use of those softer compounds while they have them on, rather than sitting in trains like they are doing currently.
Absolutely. Of course, it's easier said than done to work your way forward, particularly when, you know, we have got small DRS pockets starting to form, smaller DRS trains, which fortunately we have not seen, you know, one long continuous line of, but it is still difficult to work your way forward, and you want to make the most of those medium tyres. I think a lot of people are just trying to shrug off what happened on lap number 1 and get on with things, but yeah, while you've got them on, you've got to make the most of them, whatever strategy they're on, whether it's going to, you know, try and go for 1-stop or a 2-stop, whatever it is. While you're on the softer compound, make best use of them. Balak trying to make his way up onto the podium, but Liam Duval has got it covered, and well, the top 5 is as close as ever with Adam Maguire setting the pace.
You may have seen a bit of weaving around there in the background. That was Zolt Zooks trying to get through on Darius Andre, and Zooks is in a similar situation to Williams and Martin, as I was saying earlier on. With the medium tyres, Zooks also needs to make use of those, because Andre is on the hard tyres just up in front of him, and Zooks very much wants to get through for ground effects at the moment, but it's costing them a bit of time. There's a bit of a break in the train from there back to where those guys are battling. 1.2 seconds between Hakimi and Andre, which is not ideal. Hakimi actually completely on his own with no DRS in front or behind as things stand, but the top 7 remain in one line. The only hard tyre runner who's with them is Juraj Simičić, who will be one to watch. This is the view from Jan Grankvist, who just had nowhere to go, unfortunately, in towards turn 1, and it's spelled disaster for his race.
It has, and again, such a poor way to get things going off the high of Bahrain and now into today, and it's just started on such a low. So hopefully when we go to Montreal in a few weeks' time, he can, you know, bounce back and impress once more. But that's what I was talking about in terms of how little time you have to react. He was most focused on getting the best start possible. Then by the time the car was out of its stall, he then realised that Lastly wasn't moving and then had to try and avoid it, and that's just not going to happen at all. And it was just one of those wrong place, wrong time things, I think, that you... Not even Spider-Man really could have reacted to that in good time. So, yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate things that happen. You know, whatever happened to Lastly's engine is to not see him start overheating or whatever happened. That's spelled the end of both the Race Clutch and the Super Venturi's drivers' race. But onwards and upwards now, the focus is turned to those still continuing on. And, well, David Mrocek is trying to work his way forward after the early spin. It's going to be hard to recover from that.
It is. He's scoring a measly 1 point as things stand. Sander Callas has found himself out of the race at the moment as well. Not sure where he's managed that out on the circuit. Could have even been turn 9 actually, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, as you say, it probably was possible physically for Grankvist to get around there, but only if he's expecting that car not to go anywhere. but not in the situation he was in, as you say, just focusing on the lights going out and getting a good start himself. There was no way he was going to be able to avoid that. This is way back down in the pack, though. There's a bit of action going on out front at the moment, with the top 5 separated by about 2 seconds. We're going to go back to a replay now, though, of what happened to Sander Callas. Through turn 9 it was. He goes for a spin, and I think he's going to retire in the gravel trap as a result of that. No points on the agenda for him here today, and thankfully managed to get out the way before the leaders got there, because they were pretty close by side between Van Vukas and Rocek. He'll go through and up into 19th place.
He will indeed. Beautiful move there from Rocek. A little bit argy-bargy, of course. Van Vukas didn't want to give it up, but he's doubled his points tally from 1 to 2 now from Rocek, and well, he's got about a second up to Matt Williams for P18, but a good way to get it done, and very hard for even for the slightly lower positions. They all know how much these points count, and well, Rocek and Van Vukas were giving it their all in order to keep them. You've got to be careful though. I mean, they actually haven't, because the closest car behind that, actually no, it's Yuki Pekalali just in P21, so they do have to be careful of the closing pack and not fight too hard. Back towards the front though, and Liam Duval is still trying tooth and nail to find a way past Janis Brakshock, who is doing enough to stay within that 7th margin and benefit of the DRS of Adam Maguire, which is helping him to keep the RAG car at bay.
It certainly is, and it's one long line at the moment. 10 laps now complete here at Barcelona, or 9 laps complete, onto lap 10 I should say, of this race. Still a very long way to go for Adam Maguire, who continues to lead the field around. He scored his best ever World Championship result last week, or 2 weeks ago I should say, back at Bahrain. That was a 6th position, and now he's looking for just a little bit better than that, with the help of his teammate as well from RG eSports. In fact, the top 3 have never scored wins in the World Championship. Brakshock has had podiums before. Duval has had one as well back at Imola a couple of seasons ago, back in 2021, but was never able to quite get that race win. It's pretty hard to pick the bunch right now though, because I think we've got to look at just behind there at who's latched onto the back of this train on the hard tyres, using up that slower compound while he can. The race will come to him a little bit later on. Jurnej Simicic is just lurking in the background as the 2 teammates go side by side. It's a mistake from Peter Perlek out of turn 9, and it allows the reigning champion to give his teammate a bit of a hard time in towards turn 10, but nothing doing there, and Perlek will stay in 4th.
No team orders there at Alpine. Perlek obviously still confident that he's got the pace to lead the charge, and it was just a small little lapse in judgment, a small mistake. Colin Sport did look to go to the outside, but Perlek did not give it up easy at all. Just goes to show that even teammates are going to fight it out, but they don't want to lose touch of Liam Duval in front, which I think they have done. They have lost the DRS. They've got to close the gap back up ever so slightly, so then still put on some pressure for the podium places. They've got to be careful, because if they do continue to fight, that gap is going to continue to grow. There might be a top 3 breakaway, but I am so keen to see what Jurnej Simicic can do throughout this race, because right now he's playing it patient. He knows full well this race is going to come to him in the later stages.
He certainly does know that. He's experienced enough to know, and he's in prime position again, I think, to challenge at the very least for this race win after suffering a disappointment at the very last there at the hands of Jake Dennehan 2 weeks ago. It was a famous victory for the Irishman, his first ever top 10 in the World Championship. Ended up being a race win. He's down in 12th at the moment, is the NX27 driver, with his teammate Van Vukas even further down in 20th position. We ride on board with Jurnej Simicic at the moment. Box just up in front, and to be honest, there's not that much to do for Simicic right now, other than obviously use his frighteningly quick pace, which of course we know that he has, but other than that, there's not a lot to do. It's not like he's going to be trying to make overtakes here. He's just got to stay within the DRS, and I'm not sure he did just about manage it on that occasion, but that's pretty much all he has to do at the moment. Just have to worry himself with making any overtakes. Just stay where he is, bide his time, wait for the race to come to him.
Absolutely. Again, as you say, there's not really much that he can do. What's the point in putting some pressure on Bok? Because then Bok's going to fight it, trying to stay in the slipstream and DRS of Colin Sport. They're going to fight it out, lose the slipstream and DRS to Colin Sport by extension, and then be completely out of this train. So for Simicic, it's great racecraft that he's showing right now. Obviously, we all know that he's got it. He's such a talented driver. But yeah, he's just got to wear down the medium runners in front of him and wait for this race to come to him. And it does take a lot as a driver to play that patient game and to accept what your race target is. And for Simicic, it's just wait, play the long game, wait for the pit stops and wait for the strategy to come to you. Because after qualifying, to be even remotely in chance of a fight is definitely a a good thing, but the midfield fight also rages on. Look at this. I mean, yeah, everyone being able to stay nicely in touch with each other, being able to follow quite well as well, even with the slightly faster final sector.
Yeah, it is a bit of a joy to drive now in terms of the way that this circuit flows, that slightly wider run through turn 10. It's not quite such a big stop on the brakes anymore, not quite so clumsy in the final sector. Flows a little bit more nicely than it once did. Carlos Martin is in the train here and looking to try and get through on Jake Danahan, who's got on hard tyres at the moment, but those mediums are not quite going to be enough for the Netrex driver to head his way down the inside in towards turn 1 on this occasion. And even at this point, he's only 8 seconds away from the race win. It's very hard to call. The pit stops are really going to be what splits this race apart. As we saw at Bahrain, it's going to slowly reduce those in contention, slowly reduce those in the front group, and from then on we'll have either the battle to the end, or we'll have one driver just getting away from the rest until the end. But for now, it's sort of a wearing away phase of this race, where everybody's staying in the train for the moment, and that's the only aim, that's the main aim for this stage, waiting for the whittling down to happen and the final stint to commence in about 40 laps time or so.
Absolutely. I mean, again, while it doesn't make for, amazing side-by-side action at this point, just wait until we get to that final stage. All of these drivers are expecting the race to come to them, expecting they've chosen the correct strategy, and we'll have to wait and see. Was it better to start on the mediums? Was it better to start on the hards? And how much is the tyre degradation going to affect the overall narrative of this race? Because there's not really much these drivers can do now, because all of them are trying to save their tyres as much as possible, play the strategical, play the long game, and getting into a little bit of a pointless scrap for 11th or 12th place, for example, it doesn't really mean a lot. However, a couple of movements there as Dennis Jordan tries to move his way past Carlos Martin. I mean, he is trying to make the most. I think now as maybe the medium tyres are starting to degrade a bit more than the hards, we might well see the hards come into their own in the coming laps.
Yeah, you can understand it here from his perspective, because there's medium tyre runners up in front, and when there are different compound of runners up in front of you, then maybe it is more of an opportunity to make moves. But other than that, it is very much follow the lead, especially out front. This is the train from 9th place on back with Darius Andre for Visceral Esports, who did qualify right alongside his teammate Martin Mergley, but clearly Andre has made much bigger progress in the opening moments than Mergley has in this race so far. So still a long way to go, of course, but it's a much better start from him than Mergley, who's not far behind Dennis Jordan here. Through the final sector, they'll come for the 14th time of this race, and it's a train for 9th place we involve ourselves within. Dennis Jordan looking for his way through. He hasn't been qualifying so well so far this season, but he's been racing well. Got inside the top 5 at Bahrain. Where's he going to get to here? It doesn't look like it's going to be a positional change on this occasion, I don't think. The top 6 certainly remain in their place. Top 7 indeed remain in their place, as do the group behind. It's a waiting game for the opening pit stops, which surely can't be ages away.
Absolutely not. I mean, with Dennis Jordan knocking on the door of Carlos Martin already on those hards, and with the track temps, and with also the demand as well, a lot of high-speed corners here, the mediums will start to degrade. As there goes Jordan looking to the outside of turn number 5. Let's almost get squeezed off to the circuit there, but Jordan's going to give it a fight, keeps his foot in, but into the next chicane, and Carlos Martin is able to stay in front. And I think we are now towards that crossover point between the mediums and the hards, and I'd expect the medium runners to be in very shortly.
Yeah, probably will be. Let's see. Dennis Jordan very close behind. Carlos Martin just up in front, but a little bit of hybrid from the Spaniard there might have just saved him down the straight. Simitic still latched on to the back of these guys in the medium tyres, on the medium tyres. And so that's going to put him in good stead for the race. And now we see the first pit stop from Liam Duval, who's in the pit lane on those mediums. So 15 laps is all that he managed there, and now he's in, leaving Burlak a bit of a gap to close actually, and Brackstock a bit of a margin to fall back on. But now the games begin. Duval has got to be worried though about traffic, because he's one of the first to come in, and he will be embedded within quite a lot of it, I think. Although maybe he'll find a little bit of a pocket in there, but that's going to be difficult. And if he finds himself stuck behind some others, then his race could be ruined.
Absolutely, the last thing he wants is to start his stint behind other cars. He needs to make the most of everything that he's got around him. There he is. I think he has rejoined in a nice little pocket of clean air. Looking at the time, and yeah, he's in a nice little pocket here all by himself and can just push like crazy to make the most of the fresher tyres while he can, but also not too crazy as to burn them out too soon. A pack just in front of him there, which obviously isn't overly ideal for the R8G car. He's going to have to hope that either they come into the pit lane soon or his rivals towards the front end of the grid come into the pit lane soon. But that is the catalyst for what could be a very intense pit lane sequence here. Liam Duval just kickstarting everything off there with the first stop.
And now what's the reaction going to be from others? We've got Colin Sport into the pit lane here by the looks of it, and Adam Maguire as well. The overall race leader is into pit lane as Burlak gets very close to Braxock, possibly for the lead in towards turn 1. There's not going to be a change, although Braxock thinks about defending. There goes Spork into his box just as Maguire leaves his. Where's Duval going to be? What's the undercut like? Because at Bahrain we saw it was very, very severe, and you could gain quite a lot of time by pitting early. There goes Duval down the pit lane, and he will be very close to his teammate Maguire, but not in front. Burlak will be Spork will be just behind him, so it will be Maguire ahead of Duval, but not by much. I think Braxock is going to lose his second place.
Potentially so. Yeah, looking at the gap, it is not much at all, so R8G may have just taken control of this race in the opening moments. The gap between them is not much at all, so Janis Braxock is going to need a very, very mighty in-lap and obviously maintain it on the out-lap as well, and hope that he can nail his pit entry and his pit exit. But there are the two R8G cars in formation. Adam Maguire narrowly ahead still of Liam Duval. It seems that undercut is very, very powerful.
It does. All of those guys who were on medium tyres, by the way, have gone on to the hards as of right now as Yannick Bock comes into pit lane. So does Janis Braxock, who wants to respond here and maybe hold on to second, but I don't know if he's going to be able to. As you can see them down in pit lane at the moment. Where are they going to come out in relation to Maguire and Duval, who are 19th and 20th in the order at the moment, behind a lot of hard tyre runners? They're going to find themselves in traffic, whereas Simicic won't, and that will play even more into the hands of the multiple-time world champion in this series. Out of the pit lane comes Janis Braxock, and he's very close for the net race leads here. Outside line for Maguire, and he's got it, but where's Duval in relation to Braxock? He will be ahead. Duval will just about get ahead, but that wasn't easy at all. He does get through. It seems that the undercut is maybe slightly less effective around here than it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, indeed so, for whatever reason, but well, good stuff there, it must be said, from Braxock to stay in contention. It was very close. The build-up of speed that the RAG cars had was able to keep them ahead for now, but it is still very, very close. Liam Duval managing to get himself in a second, and that is a good form of security for RAG to have two cars in front. They can, do something with both cars, hold everyone back, and it now puts Braxock in a very tricky position. As we said earlier, he's very isolated, being the only member of his team. I mean, he's got Hakimi up there in third net, which will be probably, I think, the back end of the top 10 after the pit lane sequence fizzles out. But compared to RAG, who have got two formidable fighters in the top two places, Janis Braxock, he's got to do a large portion of this fight all by himself, and RAG need him to know that.
Oldenmenger has to be dispatched off quickly here by Maguire and Duval, and that's what they're going to do as Bruniak comes out the pit lane right now in front of them, and beside them the two RHGs go past the Burst eSport driver. There's Burlak into a net third place. He's jumped Braxock with the overcut there by the looks of it, although the Hungarian's very close in behind him right now. There they go through turn 3 and up towards 4. It's not going to be the move on this occasion. Spork is very close as the Alpine eSports drivers battling on Braxock. It's side by side through turn 4. That was a late move from the reigning world champion. Braxock won't be pleased about that. He'll defend in towards turn 5, but Spork is so late on the brakes and he'll be up to 17th.
Beautiful stuff from the reigning champion there. Braxock really not having a good time in this pit lane sequence, but brilliant stuff from Alpine, it must be said. Spork had to do a little bit more of hard work, but they have to dispatch Oldenmenger, as you say, as quickly as possible and dispatch the traffic, because Braxock is going to try his best to capitalise on any discrepancy in pace. Also, for the overarching narrative, Burlak now being put into a very good position, but if he continues to stay behind Oldenmenger, he's going to continue to lose the gap to the two RAG cars, who are now flying in formation in front and just setting in such good lap times.
Have a look at a replay as to how it all happens. This is Robin Panzer making his way down towards the first corner, and it will go off the circuit to led everyone through. So that was as Braxshot came out the pit lane. The two RHG cars got ahead. This is out the pit lane for, back to live pictures for the likes of Spork and Burlak, who's got a number of those behind him at the moment. So Burlak is in front of Spork. Then there's Oldermenger, who's holding everything back for his teammate. Braxshot will go down the inside of him at the moment. That will be done. Yannick Bock has come into the pit lane. He's come out again as well in net 6th place position. It's very interesting, isn't it, that Jone Simoncic is the one that stands to gain from this, and it's his teammate Tom Oldermenger who's holding up the other contenders.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been a bit of a discussion there between Simoncic and Oldermenger. Simoncic just saying, hang on, just back him up ever so slightly, buy me as much time as possible. But Simoncic is absolutely flying on those hard compound tyres. About 1.2 second disparity, a 17.2 on the last lap for Simoncic as opposed to a 16.1 for Adam Maguire. So the fresher tyres are a lot quicker, but expect Simoncic to bounce back as soon as he decides to come into the pit lane. The strategical window is wide open, and while it was fairly unanimous for the majority of the top 5, it is now swung the way of Simoncic as Valeriano moves his way past Martin Mergley.
So if we're looking at 2 hard tyre stints and a medium tyre stint for Simoncic, then I guess the ideal lap to pit would be around lap 25. If he's going for 2 medium tyre stints, then he'd have to go probably another 15 laps from here, which I can't see happening given the way that the mediums have dropped off. But the problem for those who started on mediums is going to come very soon here for Maguire and Duval. They're closing up to this train that goes all the way from 2nd place. Darius Andre has got Siebel, Denahan, Jordan, Sluter, Valeriano, Merkley, Mocek, Van Bukas and Mutsadis behind him. A 10-car train that the leaders are about to embark on, and that's going to hold them up unbelievably, surely.
And going to use a lot of their tyres as well if these cars decide to put up any bit of a defence. I mean, even if they, have to go to the outside or whatever, that's going to use a lot of their tyres, and they run the risk of each car that they overtake between now and when they pit. It also carries a risk of things going drastically wrong. While it is a small chance, the chance is there. So Maguire, Duval have got to be able to pick their way through bit by bit, and Bialak and Spork, the 2 Alpine cars, I think both have to make the most of any mistakes that they have working their way through the traffic, as well as that is Alex Siebel moving his way past Darius Andre, and there goes the other Ferrari. Dennis Jordan looked into the inside of Jake Danahan. No way through for now, and that's going to accelerate the time that the race leaders close in on this train.
It's time for the Ferraris to go, it seems, and Siebel is through. He's had enough of sitting behind Darius Andre. Now we'll want to make some progress. This is back with the likes of Zooks and Hakimi, who have also made early stops in this one on those medium tyres, of course. They're now on the hards, as is everyone still running in the field. Of course, excluding the likes of Gragvist, Callas and Lartalu, who are already out of this race. It is Hakimi and Zooks battling a little bit further down. Martin has also made his first pit stop of the day, first scheduled stop anyway, and those are the guys really in contention on that other strategy. But Maguire now is only 7 tenths away from Mutsadis. He's now on the back of this train, and now the games really begin, because he's 18 seconds behind Simoncic already, and surely the race leader right now is eyeing up an opportunity to jump them all here in the pit stops with a really, really large overcut.
That would be insane, but I would not be overly surprised. That would be absolutely mega, as most of the a couple of the hard runners peel their way into the pit lane. We saw, I'm not entirely sure as to who exactly it was Martin Mergley peeling his way into the pit lane, Davin Mocek coming in as well. The rest of them decide to stay out. There's a move there as Adam Maguire is sat stationary behind the fight between Mutsadis and Van Bukas. No way through for now, but he is now starting the fight through. He's just got to pick his way through. Patience. Is it a little bit unsettled though? Adam Maguire would have had his heart in his mouth for that one, but he's managed to pick his way through. Liam Duval going to follow his teammate as well and use each other as the battering ram to fight their way through this traffic.
Well, that's exactly the advantage they've got at the moment. So Simoncic is using his teammate of Tom Oldermenger was using him to hold everybody back a little bit earlier on. Whether by design or not, I don't think it was by design whatsoever, but it's just a happy coincidence that's happened, I think, more than anything. But now there's a happy coincidence for RHG, because Liam Duval won't actually have to do that much work to get through on people here. He might just try and follow his teammate through every single corner here.
Absolutely, it's what any logical person would do. If your teammate goes for a gap, you follow him through and hope that the other car doesn't put up too much of a fight. Ideally, as soon as that gap opens on the inside with the fresher tyres, arguably the quicker car potentially as well, you might be able to just pick your way through. But Adam Maguire through the quickest sequence on the circuit, pulling his way into the pit lane. Mutsadis, that makes his job a lot easier and now they've got a patch of clear air ever so slightly that they can try and work with. But yeah, the REG boys, yeah, they're on a mission to try and limit the advantage to Jone Simicic.
They are indeed side by side. A little bit further back there with Spork and Van Vukas. Spork has gotten through, so have both of the Alpine cars actually in the background. It's REG followed by REG, followed by Alpine inside the top 4 net positions at the moment. If Simicic were to come in right now, I'm pretty sure he would be behind this group, but very much within it at the moment. Maguire's found a bit of clean air though. That will be pleasing for the moment, and I think Simicic will be only a couple of laps away from stopping now, because we'll have 40 laps remaining, and that might well be enough for one hard stint and one medium stint to the end. I think that's going to be the strategy employed by most here. Tyre wear seems pretty severe, and people started coming in from those medium tyres after only around 15 laps.
Yeah, it was quite the short stop. It is quite a tyre demanding circuit with the high speed corners, the mid speed corners, etc, and the track temps as well. There is going to be a heavy degradation on the mediums. That's why probably we haven't seen anything off the softs as well. They would just be absolutely shot probably within sort of 5-6 laps potentially. So yeah, those hard tyres do have the longevity needed, and I think Jone Simicic is going to go for a double hard stint and maximise on low fuel the mediums to the end of the race. It'll be a very interesting split strategy that we've got. Those that started on the mediums, those that started on the hards. It'll be one that we see develop as the race progresses, but yeah, now it's just that waiting game, waiting for Simicic to come into the pit lane and waiting to see where he comes out relative to those that were once in front of him.
It is another waiting game in this race. There goes down the inside David Mocek on Danny van der Neet, down for 18th position at the moment. Merkley's going to follow through as well on van der Neet, who's out there still on the hard tyres. Merkley out on mediums in the middle point of this race, which is a little bit unusual, but he's made an early stop from the hard tyre train to do that, so clearly it wasn't an accident. Now Maguire and Duval are up and fighting for 5th position in this race. It's very much the time for the hard tyre runners to come in. 25 laps are going to be complete at the end of this one. Is it going to be time for Simicic to come in? I think he has stayed out indeed at the end of this one, so he will continue to run out those. He's still got more left in the tyres by the looks of things, but I think in terms of traffic interruption, that's pretty much it now for Maguire and Duval, and they're going to hold this 17-second disadvantage they have to Jone Simicic, which I think they'll absolutely take at this stage in the race.
Absolutely. I think in terms of traffic management, they did a really good job. Siebel comes into the pit lane as well. But yeah, for the REG boys, they took every opportunity they could. They got through as quickly and easily as possible and maximised their opportunities. So yeah, 17-second gap I think is probably the best they could have asked for. And now with this pocket of clear air, they've got to use it. And well, just wait and see what Simicic can do. If there's anything left in those hard compound tyres for the Barcelona eSports driver, he's got to use them. Jukka-Pekka Lali picks his way past and working his way inside the top 21. Singular point for the Super Venturi driver, but well, a point's a point.
It is, and every one of them is going to count in a short season like this one. This is the battle for net place 5th at the moment. Jonas Braxop was running in the podium places provisionally earlier on. Yannick Bock now is just behind him in 6th, with Van Vukas and Hakimi at those behind, although quite a long way behind. These two have found themselves on their own just a little bit, although they do have the DRS of one another. And I think it does just show what a good job REG have done over the course of the pit stops here, because they've gotten away from these guys. Braxop out on his own has unfortunately fallen back a little bit, and not only lost his 2nd place as he was running in, but he's lost the DRS train as well, which we said was going to be really important throughout this race. That's going to remain the case, but unfortunately he has lost that now with Jordan and also Denahan in the pit lane. These guys now will also move up a position, and we're now only waiting for Jone Simicic.
Yeah, he's going very, very long in this race, but the pace isn't that bad. He was only 4 tenths slower than Adam Maguire on that last lap, a 17.5 to a 17.1. So not dreadful pace from Simicic. I think he's making the most of those tyres towards the back end of the stint, and the longevity has definitely been there, the endurance of those hard compound tyres. So I think Simicic's time sat in the sort of in 7th place behind everyone. He used it so wisely, lifting, coasting, saving the tyres, whatever it was, and now using them to either maintain the gap and limit the speed in which Adam Maguire closes that gap, so much so that the longer he goes, the more that he can push on the stints to come. Yeah,
it's a very interesting strategy game we've got going on at the moment. Nearly 27 laps complete, and now Simicic will come in to the pit lane, the final of the drivers to make that call. with 39 laps remaining still in the race. Is it going to be mediums or hards here for the three-time champion? It's not going to be a race lead, I don't think. That's going to go back to pole sitter Adam Maguire in search of his first win, as is Liam Duval. There goes Simicic. He's quite some distance behind these guys. Is he still going to be even in the DRS train right now? I don't think he is. He'll be behind Bok and Braxock by the looks of it, down towards turn 1. Yes, he will. Hakimi is not close enough to go ahead of Simicic, so back to 7th place, and he'll have some work to do. Hard tyres again, though, for him. He's going to be very fast at the end of this race.
He is indeed. And, well, I think Simicic has hit the nail on the head in terms of strategy. Now he's got to deliver it. He needs to have a flawless race, essentially, in terms of making the most of each and every single lap, limiting the mistakes. I think first step is get within 7/10 of Janis Brakshock and just latch yourself onto his rear wing. Make the most of the tyres, get them, get yourself into a rhythm of things, punish them for the first couple laps just to get onto the back of things. Take that first step forward, and then everything else should come a little bit easier for you. But yeah, Adam Maguire, Liam Duval, they have got the pace. They put the laps in qualifying, but Janis Simicic, his race brain has definitely been on, and I think either mentality, either approach to this race could definitely work. It just depends on how well they approach each and every circumstance, how much Janis Simicic can capitalise on the quicker pace of the tyres that he's got, and maximising that shorter medium stint that he's going to have towards the end of the race. Because while he is going to be quicker, he's not going to be quicker for very long. So any moves that he does make, he's got to make within haste.
Well, he's got just under 7 seconds to the lead, and he might have to do some of the work here on the hard tyres, because let's not forget, he does have quite a bit fresher tyres here by about 10 laps here on the hard, so he might even be able to make progress now in this stint, even despite the lack of tyre compound difference between these two at the moment. A little bit further back, there's a big battle going on for 10th place as Alex Siebel gets through, I believe, on Carlos Martin. Dennis Jordan's involved back there with Jake Denahan as well. Mark Suter, who's fighting back from his grid penalty. That's all in a fight in the next group just behind this one, and there they are. These guys, you can feel a little bit of desperation almost in some of these contenders, because especially for the likes of Siebel, Jordan, Denahan, they know that they're capable of winning races in the World Championship. They know that they're some of the top drivers, but they're caught in this group a long way down, can't overtake, can't get towards the front, and there's somewhat desperation about some of it, but there needs to be cool heads prevailing, and I think Siebel has done that with that pass to get up inside the top 10.
Absolutely. When you slip into a desperate mindset, it's so easy for things to spiral out of control. You send moves that are arguably not on. You are a little bit too aggressive. You are prone to making more mistakes. You get hot-headed, I should say, and it just doesn't work for you as well. So, got to slip out of it. Using the DRS, Dennis Jordan pulls out to the right-hand side, flies his way past Carlos Martin, and up now into 11th place. I think Jake Denahan is going to do a similar thing into turn number 1 as well. And the two Ferraris and Denahan, the three of them trying to work their way through, because as you say, these three should in theory be wanting more, but the qualifying session did sort of set that precedent. However, they are on a similar strategy to Simicic, which might prevail in the end of things. We'll have to wait and see, but as for now, it's all about keeping a cool head and, well, take each corner as they come.
I wonder what Jake Denahan will be feeling here today. You can see him on the on the right-hand side there with his on-board approaching the half-distance mark in the Spanish Grand Prix this afternoon. What do you think he'll be thinking at this point? Because he's gone from the highs of winning the race at the Bahrain Grand Prix, but after all, that's not what he's used to in the World Championship. He's not used to being on the top step. He's never won before. He's never finished inside the top 10 before. And if this race were to happen 2 weeks ago, he would be knocking on the door of his best finish we've ever seen him do in this World Championship. So it must be a whirlwind mix of emotions for him at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's been strength to strength as Janis Simicic moves his way past Bok. That happened quickly. He got past Brakshock and past Bok in the span of a few laps. So working his way inside the top 5, 3 seconds to Colin Spork for Alpine to get himself up one more place, but his pace is absolutely sensational. The first lap of the race, a 1:15.8 for Janis Simicic on those fresh hard compound tyres. Absolutely insane. But back to Denahan, yeah, it's just that contrast, that spectrum of emotions. He's gone from a very high to now sort of, I don't want to say back to reality, because it's not necessarily back to reality, because he's had that improvement, that steady improvement to where he does deserve to be on a consistent basis towards the front of the field, but more back to regularity, more back to potentially what he's been used to over the last couple of years. for him, I think it is just a case of, well, I want more, I deserve more, but maybe it's just an off day. Who knows? Maybe Jake Danahan's just not feeling it today. We don't know, but this is how Simoncic got it done.
Yep, this is the pass in towards turn one. Wasn't very difficult in the end, and Simoncic threw up into the top 5 there and has already gotten rid of Bock quite considerably. Further back, Zolczuk is battling with the likes of Dennis Jordan, having already been passed by Alex Siebel fairly recently. The other Ferrari now is going to be looking for its way through, and Jake Danahan will probably be doing the same as well. They'll make their way round the final corner right about now, and it will probably be time for Zooks to roll over and let Jordan take his position back inside the top 10 again, and that's what's going to happen for the Scuderia Ferrari eSports team. They have 2 cars inside the top 10 all over again. 5th place for Jordan 2 weeks ago, 8th place for Siebel. They're in a decent place in the team standings as a result, in 3rd, just ahead of RHG. That's surely going to be a focus for them throughout this season as well, you would expect, as it will be for some others. But yeah, for now, the 2 Ferraris up there. Arnaud Brabham have 2 cars inside the top 10. RHG and Alpine also, with Burst and virtual drivers by TX3, the only teams to have a single driver in there. This is a feisty battle between Giordano Valeriano and Darius Andre towards 7 and 8. There was a lot of contact there, and Darius Andre in the end has prevailed on his medium tyre stint, which has unusually come at the middle point of the race.
Yeah, maybe just wanting to go for a quicker middle, make up some ground and pick his way through some traffic. So Darius Andre, good move there. Could have been a little bit cleaner, but you got to do what you got to do. He threaded the needle to the outside, which is already a difficult task. Up to the front, though, Adam Maguire, Liam Deval and Peter Berlak, the top 3. Colin Spork just in tow. The top 4 train. However, Yannick Simoncic, look at how scarily quick he is closing on this top 4 fight. They need to be careful with, how this top 4 manages each other. Of course, 2 pairs of teammates, but Yannick Simoncic is closing in at a rapid pace here. I think he's motivated after that poor qualifying session. This strategy is fueling Simoncic to drive faster.
Well, I do wonder whether it doesn't really matter where he's qualified here, because he knows he'll have the race pace, he knows he's got the winning strategy, the golden ticket, and he might well be seizing it right now. At 5th place, 3 seconds, off the back of Adam Maguire as they go through turn 9 just before the halfway point in the Spanish Grand Prix here this afternoon. It's Maguire, Deval, Berlek and Spork all in a DRS train out front right now, but they've got Simoncic chiming in. I mean, surely it is advantage Simoncic right now. He's got newer tyres for this stint. He'll have softer compound tyres towards the end. It's just a little bit of a case of how much time is he going to lose when he gets undercut by everybody here, as I'm sure he will do throughout the next pit stop phase. These leaders can't be more than 5 laps away from a pit stop, whereas Simoncic is probably going to be pitting closer to lap 50.
Absolutely, yeah, 50, 51-ish, maybe trying to stretch this second stint a little bit longer if he's got the tyre life to do so, to be able to fully push on those medium tyres towards the end. But again, I think Yannick Simoncic, the only opponent is going to be himself, limiting the mistakes, maximising the pace, and just hoping that those in front of him maybe wear out their tyres a little bit quicker or get into their own little skirmishes, anything to aid the process for Yannick Simoncic. But all things go well, each lap goes just that little bit better for Simoncic.
Carlos Martin is off the road and down at turn 1. I believe it all started on the straight, which is bizarre. But Carlos Martin is indeed our 4th retirement of the race, and Darius Andre is out as well. They must have made contact around the circuit down towards turn 1. It was a feisty battle pack that we were seeing down the order, and unfortunately it looks like it's all come to blows. Costas van Vukas is already out of this race as well, so that's now 6 retirements from this race as far as I can work out. Yeah, it will be 6 retirements. There is Carlos Martin down on pit lane, down in the garage, out of the race at the halfway mark of this one for Netrex. Back up front, they'll stay single file with Simoncic now in the DRS. He's lurking in the background once again. He'll now get onto the back of them, and I guess presumably he's going to save a bit of hybrid now at this point in the race, or maybe he'll just continue and try and tear through this group.
Yeah, I don't know what his game plan is going to be. I mean, what advantage does he get of carving his way through rather than, wearing out his tyres, getting the track position only for these guys to pit in a few laps' time anyway? Maybe it's a good opportunity just to take a breather. He's on the back of him. He's not lost too much time. Is this what's happened to Carlos Martin? Indeed it is. Through the pit straight out the final corner. All is good of now. What's going to happen? I'm not entirely sure. Just in behind. It's one of the, that is the visceral car. Gets too close to him, taps his rear end, destabilizes the car. It's wobbling, and wow, that was a big old whack.
It was, and they're both in the wall, and
Oh my word.
very nearly get hit, I think by Mrocek, maybe, who's just gone through there. Not entirely sure, and Martin Mergley just behind, so that could have been teammate involved as well with Darius Andre, but that was all down the front straight. I mean, a little bit needless, you would have to say, because after all, there was plenty of space there for Darius Andre to make the move on Carlos Martin, but it's just clipped him, and at that kind of speed, it doesn't take an awful lot to unsettle cars. This is how it should be done. Jone Simoncic passing towards turn 1, and he's into 4th place.
Indeed so. So the prediction of waiting around, we were a little bit wrong with that. Jone Simoncic, I think, wants to carve his way through this field, make the most of those tyres while he's still got them, and not really interested in sitting back behind. He's through 1 Alpine. Next up is the lead one, Bialak for P3, and then beyond that the 2 RAG cars. Is, well, stuck in a bit of a DRS train. Jone Simoncic, to be able to overcome that, might need to deploy more of his hybrid unit. This is on board with Darius Andre. The closing speed is insane, but I think he leaves it way too late to pull out.
Well, have a look at his steering angle on the way down towards that corner there, because he was already left hand down. Now he's broken his suspension the other way around, by the looks of it, down towards turn 1. But yeah, he was left hand down there already. So clearly he's made contact along the way before that incident. But yeah, as you say, still not really an excuse there to clip Martin in the way that he did. It was very avoidable. And unfortunately just didn't avoid it. There are the 2 Ferraris then, 9th and 10th at the moment, behind the 2 Honors Brabham cars in 7th and 8th. That's about outside the top 5 where most of the battling is. Simoncic is close to Peter Berliak this time. These two had a fantastic battle for the title back in 2020. It was all settled at the penultimate round, the Japanese Grand Prix, with Berliak spinning out of the race from the lead in what would have continued on to be a fantastic championship battle between the two of them. It's not going to be just those two this season, if it is indeed those two at all. There's going to be many more involved in this one, because not many of those who finished up towards the front last time are here again. Jake Dennehan still outside the top 10 after having winning the first round. Simoncic is up there, Mrocek certainly is not. Neither is Granqvist, he's out the race, and Dennis Jordan's only just got inside the top 10. It's a very difficult one to be consistent at, but this is what we so often say about Jone Simoncic. Above all else, he is fast and consistent, and once again, that's he's proving that right now.
It's what we said would be the be-all and end-all, I think, of the championship. A driver like Jone Simoncic, who's able to deliver week in, week out. While yes, we are only on the 2nd round of the season, the championship lead right now is more of a novelty than anything, more a backwards thought in the minds. But it's only 9 rounds. You've got to get the ground running as soon as possible, and it's times like now where Simoncic is going to be so grateful as his future self looking back to say, yeah, I picked up some good points here, I picked up some good points there. The consistency is really going to help him. As opposed to maybe Dennehan, who is struggling a little bit here today. You don't necessarily have to win every race, but you just have to be up there inside the top 10, 8, 6, 5, whatever it is, just up there, competitive, scoring those points. Because in a championship as close as this, all it is going to take is maybe 1 DNF or something out of the ordinary for it to go wrong to see the end of potentially some championship hopes. As Jone Simoncic is looking to expand on that 4th place as it stands, he's going to be hoping for a win, which definitely isn't a million miles away for him.
Absolutely isn't. He could even argue that he's favourite for this one at the moment with the tyre advantage he's going to have at the end. He'll have the mediums to put on, as will some others behind, of course, but he's got a huge head start on them, and he's the only one inside this top 5 who have been able to keep that medium tyre stint back for the very end of this race. Still 28 laps to go when we get to the end of this one here at the Spanish Grand Prix in the 2023 FSR VCO World Championship. At the moment, Maguire still leads. Adam Maguire from pole position to race lead at the end of lap 38. Then it's Liam Duval, then Peter Berliak, Jone Simoncic and Colin Spork, your top 5. And at the moment, they're staying like that. Simoncic's the one likeliest to make a move at the moment, but will not in towards turn 1 on this occasion. I do wonder what his thinking is behind passing Spork, but they're not continuing to come through the group here. It just feels as if he can do this, but he's choosing not to at the moment.
Maybe just wanted to get a foothold into it. I'm not entirely sure, but Berliak is under a little bit of pressure. Simoncic not quite close enough to go for the move. Yeah, I do understand that. I don't know. Maybe just wanted to be that little bit closer to the pack, be amongst it as opposed to be at the back of it. Yeah, I don't really know what advantage this is given apart from just being ahead of Colin Spork. But obviously he knows a lot better than we do. He knows what he's doing. There's a reason why he's won as many championships as he has. He sat there in fourth and is looking to expand on it. But at this point, maybe he is just trying to ride out the wave and wait for these guys to come into the pit lane to then get the clear air as opposed to risking it and fighting the way through, because being sandwiched between the two Alpines is probably not the best situation to be in. A Spork seems to be struggling at the back end of this field. The pressure is on. He's kind of having to push to keep up.
Yeah, we've just seen Tom Larsalou, by the way, get into the YouTube chat, and commiserations to him, confirming our suspicions that the engine blew up for him just as the lights went out there. Liam Duval, by the way, into the pit lane already here at the end of lap 39. That gives him a 27 lap stint to the end of this race, which is quite long, but then again, he did pit early first time round as well. I wonder what reaction that's going to stir from the rest of them inside the top five.
Potentially so. Liam Duval then once again triggering the pit stop window. He's in and he's out once more. So this does put a little bit of pressure on those, particularly Alpines. I'm sure Maguire knows exactly what his teammate is doing. It worked from the first time through. Let's see if it works from the second time. However, Liam Duval right amongst a bit of a fight here.
Yes, he's just behind Zoltzoux, with Giordano Valeriano just behind. And then there's Darius Morcek as well, who's looking to benefit from this because Valeriano had to slow down for Duval, and he very nearly went for a move on Valeriano there, so did Morcek. So Duval has found himself in this group, and this is once again the disadvantage we were speaking about earlier on. When you're out front there, you can find yourself in an awful lot of traffic very quickly, and that also is going to play into the hands of Ewan Simicic, because while most of these guys at the front will be able to jump this group, there's that big group from 7th on back with Dennis Jordan at the front of it that might well get in their way as well. So that's another thing that plays into the hands of the multiple-time champion, as I believe we see Adam Maguire from pole and the race lead into the pit lane with Colin Spork as well.
Here we go then, trying to limit the undercut that Liam Duval is getting. I mean, Duval did get a good undercut in the first stint, but it seemed that the overall advantage did go to the overcut. Adam Maguire now leaving the pit lane. Where is Liam Duval? There he is, building up the speed for R8G. He has got the overall speed build up. Is he going to get past his teammate? He definitely is past Colin Spork, whose engine, well, there we go, it was a little bit hot, but Liam Duval settles in just behind his teammate, just ahead Colin Spork. No major changes there.
Well, Spork did a very important pit exit, I suppose, to get out ahead of Valeriano, who for the second lap in a row is going to be under pressure from David Morcek, and for a second lap in a row, Morcek will not go through. But Maguire out in front of Duval, it's clear that the undercut advantage you get around here is way reduced compared to what we had at Bahrain, because Maguire especially was able to make great use of it a couple of weeks ago to get up inside the top five. In fact, he went a bit too early and paid for it at the end, but that doesn't seem to be the case around here. The tyre's not dropping off quite as much, clearly, and you can't quite gain as much time, although it is hard when you come out in traffic anyway.
It is, always is. I mean, the last thing you want really when you're in a fight as hard as this is to come out behind a slower car. So Colin Spork, very important stuff, but struggling a little bit relative to the R8G. So Alpine may be on the back foot, though they have done a mega race up until now. Peter Berlak, though, we'll have to wait and see what he can do out in front. David Morcek on the back of Valeriano for what is P13 at the moment. Schluter coming in, Bratchok now in as well, and he settles in behind both RAGs and Colin Spork as well. I don't think that was too big of a surprise, but it's a shame that we've seen such a decline from Arnage and Brabham.
It is really, but especially Bratchok in this race, a long way behind the likes of the leaders at the moment. There is Bratchok still searching for that first win in the World Championship. That has eluded him so many times after being on pole on multiple occasions now as well. It looks like it's at least going to be decent points for him here today, but that couldn't have been said 1 week ago. It was a difficult race for him, 2 weeks ago I should say. It was a difficult race for him at the Bahrain Grand Prix. He's down to 14th now. He will surely finish a bit higher than that, but it's not looking so encouraging. Well, we are still more than 20 laps from the finish of this one, but we have seen the final pit stops made for some of these drivers now. Maguire, Duval and Spork should all be going to the end on those hard compound tyres as Ewan Simicic makes a move in towards turn number 1. He's been waiting behind Peter Berlak for quite some time. Now he's hit the front. Now he's unleashing the pace, and still he's got the advantage over the rest, even with these hard tyres beginning to age that little bit now.
Absolutely, he's made the most of them, but they still have a little bit of life in. I don't know how Simicic has done it. We're going to take a look as to how it happened. I think just a generic slipstream DRS and worked his way past Berlak, not really putting up too much of a fight, the Alpine driver, because he knows that he's going to be into the pit lane very soon. But Jone Simicic, the next sort of 10, 50... Actually, no, he's probably only going to go for about 7-8 more laps on this stint. He's got to make the most of it to limit the gap that he's got to close up on that medium stint. But look out for Jone Simicic into the final 15 laps of this race, because he is going to be on a charge.
Well, he does need the pace, though, because on the last lap he did a 16.6. Duval did a 15.6, and it was a 15.5 from Maguire, the fastest lap of anybody in the entire race so far, although Simicic just set the best first sector of this race so far as well. So clearly there's still life left on these tyres just yet. Over the line for Jone Simicic. It's a 55.5, a 15.5, excuse me. A new fastest lap of the race so far at the end of lap 43. You wouldn't think that he's on old tyres at the moment here with the, more than 20 laps on these tyres at the moment. At this point, nearly 20 laps anyway. You wouldn't think so, because Simicic is absolutely flying at the moment. He's coming up to one of his teammates as well, who I believe is going to be David Mocek. No, it's going to be Damian Scrovon, excuse me, who's a little bit further down the order. As of right now, 22nd in the order. He's going to be used for a bit of DRS, you'd imagine, on the front straight next lap. And so it's all falling into place at the moment for the three-time champion.
It is indeed. His pace on such old tyres is so impressive. It shows how well he's managed them to the point where he's not used up all of the pace in the first opening moments of the stint. He's kept it at a nice, steady, constant rate of degradation, and also managed to keep the pace up throughout. And that is a very impressive time. Schluter is able to beat it only by, 19 thousandths of a second to be exact, 15.512 for Schluter, which is showing that the pace was there despite the 8th-place grid penalty. Simicic's pace, despite his tyres, is absolutely insane. And if he can maintain that, which I don't think he's going to be able to for much longer, he's probably using the absolute last of his tyres while he's still got them on, it does help. And that fastest lap here or there, that extra 10th of a second, even if it's maintaining the gap back to Adam Maguire and Liam Duval, Colin Spork, etc., it is going to help in the grand scheme of things. However, he is going to come out behind this train, which means he's got to work his way through that. Obviously, it sounds incredibly obvious, but the task at hand is going to mean that each and every single one of these drivers, Spork, Duval, Maguire, they are not going to give these places up easy. Simicic has still got his work cut out for him, despite the fact that, in theory, he should be the one to win.
And it's not all going to be about passing cars on the circuit here, Zach, because you've got to think about the tyre wear as well on those medium tyres. The hards obviously will be dropping off as well, but not at quite the rate that the mediums will. So Simicic has got to time his final stop well, and considering his first stint was quite a long one, up towards about 27 laps, he should be all right. But it's not just about overtaking on the circuit. He's got to make sure that he needs to get to the front by the time that the hards could become worse. The hards become better than the mediums, so then he can go on the defensive, and then he'll be in a similar position to where he was in Bahrain, where he's defending from the front. But then again, if Simicic pits late enough, then he can avoid that phase of the medium tyre stint where he's actually falling backwards through the order.
Absolutely, he's just going to have to maintain them as best as possible. It's not just going to be a case of going straight out the gates, pushing the mediums to the end, because we saw those that started on the mediums did really struggle towards the back end of their stint. So Simicic, while he does want to, as the racing driver he is, close the gap as quickly as possible, blitz past them, use all the tyre that he's got, that is not going to be the best way to approach the final moment of this race. So yeah, it's still a very difficult task at hand, even for Simicic. Lot to go through his head, lot to process, lot to think about, and also the likes of Colin Spork as well. How does he approach this battle as well? Because at the moment, well, yes, he's kind of does have to work with the two RHGs. He doesn't really want to, because each time that he sends a move to Duval and goes side by side with him is time lost, and it's time that Jone Simicic is going to love to eat away at. Colin Spork, what does he want to do in terms of this fight? How does he approach it? Does he send the move? Does he take control of the situation, or does he just round off the rear of the alternate strategy?
Well, I think you've got to think about this in relation to Simicic, because if Spork fights too hard with Duval and Maguire right now, then they're all going to lose. But if he just waits until Simicic makes the pit stop, and then as he comes out behind them, then they start to battle with one another, and they battle with him as well, then they're all in with a chance of winning this race. But I don't know if you agree, but I feel as if battling right now is a death sentence for them all. And it's basically a signing off of the victory to Simicic if they all start fighting right now. They've got to keep the pace high because Simicic is not going slowly. 16.4 on the last lap as opposed to Maguire's 16.3. They're not even going that much quicker in this group behind right now.
Simicic is maintaining that gap so well. It's incredibly impressive how he can do that on such old tyres, and a difference of only a tenth. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's not really going to mean a hell of a lot. So Simicic, brilliant stuff. Maguire needs to find something extra before the two behind him sort of get a little bit frustrated, try to extract more out of the car. But you are right in saying, I think, despite the disparity between the teams, obviously Maguire and Duval are always going to work together. But Colin Spork also, I think, needs to get in on that little train of saying, yeah, we're in this strategy, we've got to commit to it, at least for the moment. Let's work together, let's think of the greater objective, let's have that racecraft and hope that Simicic doesn't find a way through on us. I think as soon as Simicic fits, you're right, Colin Spork might find a way of getting involved and seizing control and getting the buffer of the two RAG cars. But for now, it's minimising the gap to, or maximising the gap to Simicic, I should say, out of the pit lane sequence and doing their best to maintain that. It's going to be so tough. The pressure is on. While the gap at the moment is 20 seconds, I don't think it's going to be particularly that far away by the time we get to lap 66.
Another 0.3 of a second gained by Maguire on this most recent lap. Duval gets very close to Maguire though, because Sport gets close to Duval towards turn number 1. Burlak is not with these guys anymore for Alpine. It's between these three. As I mentioned earlier on, this race once again is going to be about a gentle whittling down process between these front drivers. The front group will generally erode away and then they'll be forced to fight it out. Now Spork's going to go for it, the reigning champion, looking to make amends for lost ground at the Bahrain Grand Prix. He tries to go for it on Liam Duval. He's still on the inside at turn 6 and 7, and he will go decisively down the inside. Not much room given there. Duval goes through the gravel and Spork is through to 6th place.
Beautiful stuff there from Colin Spork. RG Bargy now finds himself the meat in the RAG bread of this sandwich. Colin Spork now finds himself in 6th place and picking his way forward. It'll be second as soon as Sterne Simicic and Jordan Siebel Denahan all come into the pit lane. Has that put him into a bit more of a precarious situation though? He's lost a bit of time to Adam Maguire, but when it does come to fight time, he's going to have to look forward to attack, backwards to defend, and the two teammates are going to try their absolute best to squeeze that gap as much as possible and put the gap onto Spork. But he's not going to wait around at all, is he? He's just going to throw everything he can at him as Duval moves his way straight back past Spork.
Well, this is now really surely shooting each other in the foot at the same time. You'd have to argue, because they're now going to lose time. 16.5 from Simicic on that most recent lap time. Duval, a 17.5 on that lap. A second lost by him and surely by Burliak, by Spork as well. Burliak is here now too with the Alpine eSports car. Maguire makes a bit of a mistake, does he? Or he's being caught again, I'm not entirely sure, by his RAG teammate. But I have to say, that was aggressive racing between Duval and Spork on that most recent lap. And I guess that might mean they're going to fight each other even harder next time around when they inevitably go at it once again. There's going to be even higher tensions between the two.
Indeed so. They're not going to give an inch at all. Neither of them will want to lose the places in the train. They're going to throw everything in their arsenal that they've got. Barlak might be able to close the gap and get onto the back of his teammate as a bit of a rear gunner trying to support Colin Spork. But, well, both teams, while RAG and Alpine are going to fight it out, they've also got to worry about the dark horse of Yannis Simicic, who lap by lap is coming a little bit less dark and coming a lot more into the spotlight. With each lap that passes by is one lap less that he has to maintain those medium tyres and one lap more that he can push on them and work his way through the four-car fight for the lead. I mean, yeah, it's going to be so interesting. It's a shame that fight between Duval and Colin Spork did come to quite a bit of an anti-climax, with Duval just working his way through with some DRS and straight back up the inside of him. But I think it does set the precedence for what should be a very interesting finale, because it's been the thing that we've been talking about all race long. They've been sort of stagnant amongst each other in the slipstream, DRS, doing their own thing, saving the tyres, working the strategy. This is what it all boils down to. This is the deciding moment.
It is. final 16 laps at the line. Simoncic comes around the final corner to complete lap 50. There are the two Ferraris, by the way, Dennis Jordan and Onyx Siebel just up in front, and they've got decent pace as well. Had they qualified a bit better once again, then they might have been a bit further inside the top 10 by the end of today, but it looks like it's going to be at back end of that top 10 at the end of the day. Into the pit lane comes Siebel, along with Jake Denahan as well, allowing these guys to move up to a battle for third place right now. Simoncic with a 16.2 on that lap time, but Maguire responds with a 16.2 himself as well. The wick just being turned up ever so slightly, but it's frightening consistency from Jurnek Simoncic at the end of this stint here. Those hard tyres have got to be really quite old at this stage now, with about 25 laps on them, but still he's persevering with them. He's driving very quickly with them as well, and is he driving to yet another race victory with them as well?
Potentially so. I mean, that last lap, 16.2 for Simoncic, 16.2 for Maguire. He's actually quicker than Maguire on that previous lap, and while it is only by about half a tenth or so, it's still the fact that he's growing the gap, and it is going to put him under it's going to alleviate a lot of pressure in the final moments, but he's got to maximise each and every lap of those mediums and make sure that he doesn't get too desperate too soon. He doesn't go too hard too soon. He doesn't burn the tyres too soon. Question was posed that he could go to the softs, but I do not see that happen. I think the mediums are going to be the logical choice because they're still softer, they're still fresh, and they've got the longevity, they've got the life in them to be pushed a little bit longer, particularly with the track temp as high as it is. But Simoncic, I think it's all eyes waiting for him to see when he's going to come into the pit lane and when he's going to make the most of some fresh rubber.
It can't be too far away. Dennis Jordan comes in now to allow these guys to move up to second place, and the DRS train move through again. Simoncic gains about a tenth and a half over Maguire again. The gap 19.3 as far as I can see on the timing screen, just over 20 as you can see on the graphics there. We'll see which one we believe by the time that Simoncic comes out the pit lane in a few moments time. It can't be far away, and he'll be on the medium tyres. Let's not forget here, Zach, we've got to remind everybody that it's a fast final stint coming up for Simoncic. The only worry I've got is that he won't be able to make his way through the pack in time for those mediums to fall off the cliff and for him to defend from the front, but he's going so long on this stint anyway that he might not even have to worry about them falling away.
Yeah, as I say, each lap is one, he goes on these hards, is one less lap that he has to nurse the mediums. It is also one less lap that he's got to attack, but then again, on the flip side, it's one less lap that he might have to defend when he does get to the front. So swings and roundabouts for Jurnek Simoncic going through his head. I think his aim is to stretch the hards for as long as they are still quick, as long as he is still extending the gap to Adam Maguire, or at least maintaining it 20.5 seconds. Should probably see him maybe behind Peter Berlak, maybe just about in front. Who knows? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Jurnek Simoncic, definitely do look out for him, because it is going to be him being the hunter chasing the RHG and the Alpine hunted.
Let's not forget that he had overtaken both of the Alpines before that everybody came in and Simoncic, so maybe that's where he's going to come out, right smack bang in the middle of this group with only the two RHGs to negotiate. Jonas Brackstock's going around quite quickly at the moment. The first 1:14 of the race so far. 1:14.9 from Jonas Brackstock, including a purple first sector as well from him. He's up ahead of Yannick Bock into 6th place. Just makes you wonder what would have happened if he'd have been slightly stronger in the first and second stints of this race, because at the finale now, in the final moments, he is very, very quick. He's just not in the right group to really do anything with it.
No, not really. I think that's been the story for quite a number of drivers as well, but you've got to maximise the race throughout a whole. I think it all started in qualifying, and each stepping stone into the race, each lap, and setting yourself up as best as possible. What could have been for sure, but again, similar to sort of Lartelu and that, in the sense that the positives are there, the potential is there, the pace is there. So just harness that and build upon that for the rounds to come, because if you can get, into a conversation of, he could have been, had he been in the right place at the right time, use that potential and harness it for the rounds to come, because Montreal, Silverstone, Imola, Belgium, Monza, and then we go to Suzuka and Sao Paulo for the final race of the 9 round season. I think there are plenty of good tracks, plenty of good opportunities to impress. So I think so many people have got so much potential and so many opportunities to harness it.
It will be a fantastic season. It already has started off fantastically. But at the moment, Jurnek Simoncic once again is the only one who is looking like finishing in the top 5 to rounds in a row. Yannick Bock has gotten back through, and Jonas Braksok back in the pack, by the way, is further back. We've got Simicic's teammate David Mrocek through on Zolczuk's at the moment, but given that Mrocek's on the medium tyres, that's going to allow the burst driver to get away a little bit quicker. Now the big moment, Jurnej Simicic is in with 12 laps remaining. He's gone very far on these hard compound tyres again, and now the moment of the race comes. Simicic pulls into his box. He'll put on the mediums, a different set of tyres for the first time today, a different compound, and now Adam Maguire is going to have to come and take the race lead away from him again. Out of the pit lane comes Simicic. He will be 5th place with 12 laps remaining. It's going to have to be one of Simicic's signature drives to win this one from here.
3 seconds is the gap. He's got about, just over 1.5 to Petter Burlak. That's going to be the first stepping stone. Get in the DRS, use whatever hybrid that he's got left, pick his way through bit by bit. The good thing is that all of his prey is nicely packed up together. He's not got to get through one, then chase after the other, then get through that one, then chase after the other. He's got to close the gap, and then he's got all of them lined up in front of him for him to work his way through. 11 laps left to go, and it all starts here. He's already rearing onto the back of Petter Burlak. Surely this is a no-brainer that Simicic, as long as he manages the tyres well, he should be okay. But the thing is he's got 2 rear gunners in the form of Burlak and Duval to work their way through. They are not going to be any slouches in terms of defending. Neither is Spork or Maguire, in all fairness. All of these cars want this race win dearly. Unfortunately, only one of them can come out on top.
Well, one of the slowest crescendos and build-ups I think I've ever seen in an FSR VCO World Championship race has finally reached full song now, because with 11 laps to go, we do now have a race on. Nobody has to make a pit stop remaining in the top 5 positions, but it's tyre compound differences that we're playing for here. It's Simicic behind, and the hard tyre runners trying to defend from the front, and already with 11 laps to go, he's looking up the inside on Petter Burlak, who had to look up the inside of his teammate. Spork has to get close to Duval to try and come through as well. Now he'll use the median through turn 3. He's already been given the outside at 4, and here he goes. Jurnej Simicic around the outside of his 2020 World Championship rival. He's just about made it. He'll have the inside at turn 5. He'll have the place as well. Burlak will try and do the cutback. He won't manage it as Duval holds on from Spork. Simicic is going to try and come through on 2. He won't manage it here, but now the battles are really on.
Indeed so. Simicic has picked off 1. And with Spork and Duval fighting over second, it's going to close that gap and maybe give Simicic a chance to attack. He's ducking, diving, finds the space, it closes. He's back to the outside for turn number 10. Simicic trying to get the up and under. It's parked on the inside from Spork for Alpine. No way through for Simicic now through the final sector. It's all about setting up the exit and making sure that grip through the final corner is substantial enough as to give him the run in towards turn 1.
He's surely going to have the place down towards the first corner. He's so close to the back of the 2022 World Champion. And Simicic is going to give the reigning champion a bit of a lesson here on the straight. DRS, through goes Simicic. The Alpines are going to battle in the background as well. Burlak to the outside of his teammate. They'll go side by side. Spork fends him off aggressively and will hold on to 4th place. 10 laps remaining now. Simicic making these moves in double quick time. And now he's on the back of the RHEs for the win.
Absolutely. No love lost between the 2 Alpines. They're fighting it out. I think they've just cut their losses and now just going to have to accept that they're going for 4th. Spork with a massive slide going through turn number 5. He is pushing like crazy to at least stay in within a shout, but there is no doubt that Simicic hasn't got enough time to manage the gap if those mediums do drop off. He is pushing and pushing and pushing through turn number 9. Has he got the grip? Has he got the speed on this back straight towards turn 10? I don't think the answer to that is yes. But with each lap that goes by, he's setting it up. He's one step closer to taking victory.
And you do wonder as well, with only 12 laps ending up being on these tyres for the mediums at the end for Simicic, are the tyres going to fall off at all over the course of this race? I'm not convinced that they are. On board we will ride now with the Slovenian out of the final corner. Takes a bit of a tighter line than Duval there. And now he'll be in prime position to take the place from Duval. Inside line, easy as you like from Jurnej Simicic. He'll be up to 2nd place. He's very close to Adam Maguire into turn 1 as well. The pole sitter has led most of the laps of this race, in fact. He will lead the most laps of the race overall, no matter what happens from here on in. But will he lead the final one? It's looking increasingly unlikely with still 9 laps remaining, including this one.
A little bit of a look there from Colin Spork into turn number 4. The only lap you need to lead is the last one. And the only time you need to be in front is when you cross the checkered flag. So Adam Maguire, all of that effort might be undone with a late charge from Jone Simoncic, who has looked so good throughout this race. It's not done yet because Adam Maguire, he's going to try his best to back Simoncic back up into Deval, but Deval's got to look out for Spork and Burlak, who's going to make up the rear of this 5-car fight for the lead. DRS is open. Maguire, unless he's got a ton of hybrid energy still left in the battery, it's going to be almost as if he's stationary, I think, with Simoncic, provided that Simoncic has still got enough in the arsenal to use as well. That is absolutely insane pace. How hard is Maguire going to fight this?
And let's not forget that Jone Simoncic started from 11th in this race. He's already up to 2nd. Will he complete his run to the front of the field? Maguire's had a very good final sector here, and now he's getting away, but using a bit of the hybrid. Is he using a bit too much? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but now the games begin. The difference between the hards and the mediums begins to even out. Maguire has clearly been holding something back here because he's unleashing whatever he's got right now, and Simoncic is just going to gently edge his way back on terms at the moment, but there's still a long way to go at the moment. Only lap 59 in this race. 8 tenths is the margin. He's briefly broken the DRS, but he's got to be careful to manage his hybrid as well here as Adam Maguire.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be left with nothing. He needs to manage it so much so that when Simoncic does deploy it and does go for the move, Maguire's got enough to defend. But it gave him a little bit of breathing room, at least for this lap. And, well, yeah, that is definitely going to be a luxury, is a little bit of breathing room when you've got a 3-time champion of Jone Simoncic searching potentially maybe for his 4th in 2023. He got off to a good start with 2nd in Bahrain. He is looking to get his first win of the season. Adam Maguire also looking to get his ever, I think, in the FSR World Championship. With a handful of laps left to go, he's built up the gap. Has he got the DRS broken? 8 attempts to the cross. Has Simoncic got the DRS to benefit off? He has. That was a close margin and an important one for Simoncic.
But I do fear slightly that Maguire's going so quickly at the moment that he is using all of his hybrids right now, and he's not going to have any left for the remainder of this race, for the end of this race. I wonder what role Liam Deval is going to play in this race as well, because Simoncic is really squashed between these two R8G cars at the moment, looking forwards and backwards, defending and attacking all at the same time. Deval could play Teammate of the Year role here, just in behind for third place.
Maguire's going to be hoping that Deval is Teammate of the Year at this rate. If he can just close in, even if it's just one move, one attack to stall Simoncic as best as possible, it'll be music to the ears of Adam Maguire. He'll be looking in his mirrors with absolute delight, but with Deval not quite able to get close enough. He has got the DRS to Simoncic, but Simoncic is doing enough to maintain the gap to Maguire. There's been no changes as of yet. Nothing that the two Alpines can do either to get involved in that fight for the podium. I don't know, is it a matter of time before Simoncic takes the lead, or has Maguire got enough there? I do have to side with you on that one, Ewan, in the sense that I think he is just running out of steam too soon.
Well, there's not long remaining, not long to find out. 6 tenths of a second the margin over the line this time, the closest it's been for a while. Simoncic has now broken the DRS from Deval behind, which is going to be key for him as well. He'll close into the closest margin he's been for a little bit, but Maguire holds him off again. And from the pole position, he has defended well from the front. Maguire's never finished inside the top 5 of an FSR VCO World Championship race, and now he's got the chance to do so in style with a race win.
Indeed so. He took that pole position a few years ago. He took another one today, and he's looking to etch himself into the history books for his maiden victory. The R8G driver has, well, led the charge on the conventional strategy. Jone Simoncic has led the charge on the alternate strategy, and it boils down to just half a second in the final moments, the top two. Simoncic looking for win 27, Maguire looking for win number 1. It means a lot to both in terms of their stepping stones for the rest of this season. I have to say, though, it does look like Simoncic is sitting back, maybe charging his battery and waiting for that attack.
It does a little bit, but we don't know the energy levels of both of these two competitors. We could be wildly wrong. It does seem that these two are getting away from the rest, though. They are the class of the field here today by the looks of things, and if things stay roughly similar as they are, Jone Simoncic is going to be championship leader by the end of today nevertheless, as the two Alpine eSports drivers go side by side towards turn 1. Petter Perlak has had enough of staring at his teammate, and he can't get through in towards turn 1 on this occasion in that attempt. There he is. He'll pull a little bit wide through turn 3. He doesn't make the move quite, but overall it has been a good day for Alpine eSports, sitting there in 4th and 5th.
2 guys inside the top 5. Can't really ask for much more. The only other team to do it so far is Rd.2. So, yeah, fair play to them. And good points all at the end of the day, particularly coming off the back of an 11th place for Spork in Bahrain and 7th place for Balak. It's an improvement, a step forward, and good points in the championship for Alpine. They've driven really well. They're still there. They're still close. Should anything happen, they could rise to the challenge, as unlikely as that might well be. 4th and 5th, they've kept those in front honest. So good points all indeed if they can manage it to the end of the race. But all eyes, I think, are focused on Jan Simičić, who is pushing the limits and trying to get as close to the rear end of that REG as possible.
He's getting closer with each and every lap. 4 remaining at the end of this one. But Anna Maguire has been so strong in the final sector. Now Simičić has got the chance. He'll close in. And now he's going to strike. Maguire's got nothing left here. And Jan Simičić has got everything to gain. In towards turn 1 with 4 laps remaining. Jan Simičić is going to take the lead. It seems that for all of Maguire's defending, his valiant effort so far in this Spanish Grand Prix, he's just run out of resources right at the very end of this one. And now the Burst Esports driver in front is going to run away with this race.
Yep, it's been his race to take. The alternate strategy has worked so well for Jan Simičić, but it was not handed to him on a silver platter. He had to work so hard for it. He had to play the patient game in the first stint, maximise the second, and then fight his way through in the third. He's a handful of laps away from his 27th victory in the Formula SimRacing VCO World Championship. It's been a stellar run of form, and the championship lead as well, if he can keep on it. The 2 Alpines have been fighting over 4th place as well. Maybe we could see this fight for second develop, because Simičić is in the dust. He has taken his receipt. He has checked out 2 seconds clear now of Maguire in just 2/3 of a lap.
It's absolutely vintage Simičić, this, with fantastic pace, great strategy, and the only driver in the front group to have employed that strategy as well. 10 positions gained on the day, from 11th to 1st, and surely this race win is his right now. Maguire, Duval, Spork and Burlak complete the top 5, and God knows what's going to happen here now, because it's going to be all over the place for everybody now. Duval is losing a bit of time in relation to his teammate. Spork got very close in towards turn 1. Burlak will as well, but they'll stay single file. All bets are off here for second place now.
Absolutely, could go either way, but Liam Duval is going to try and do his best. Teammate of the year, and keep the Alpines at bay. Spork has been pushing that car as hard as possible. He's been squirming at so many corner exits, trying to put the power down. Has he got enough in order to find his way back onto the podium? Who knows? Has Burlak got anything as well? The DRS opens. Duval is not going to be interested in getting past his teammate. And that RAG camaraderie that we've seen, the teamwork that they've shown, has really sort of made them almost bulletproof throughout this race.
They have been looking up the inside. Now is Spork. He's getting aggressive. The battle between himself and Duval earlier was very aggressive indeed. And so we're going to see that all over again. Tempers are going to begin to fray a little bit in this group. Through the final corner, the gaps actually extend a little bit. Now it's going to be the 2015 World Champion just in the background to maybe close in on his teammate Spork. Will he go down the inside or outside? Looks like it. Gave it a go on the penultimate lap. Couldn't quite do it. It looks like Maguire's going to have enough to hold on to second place here, I think. But as opposed to who joins them on the podium, not entirely sure. Could even be one of the Alpines at the moment. Spork on the inside. It's Burlak round the outside of turn 4. A long way round though. He's going to have just enough room, and the move down the inside at 5 as well. He makes the dive. He won't go through though. It's round the outside for Spork, and he'll hold on to 4th.
He will indeed. Burlak is throwing everything at his teammate to find a way through. They need to work together if they want a chance at the podium. They need to think of the mutual higher objective and not risk going side by side. Duval is right there for the taking. Colin Spork is throwing everything at him, but with only a lap and a third left to go. Look at how late Spork is. I think Burlak might be having a bit of a look. There is Simičić about to start the final lap. He has been on top form today.
He has been on absolutely top form once again. Only 1 lap remaining here in the Spanish Grand Prix. The first time we've been to this race since 2017, and I believe anyway a race that he has never won, the Spanish Grand Prix. In 2017, he was only half a second away from managing it. Today, he's going to grasp it surely. The Alpines battle again, side by side. Burlak tries it on sport, but still can't get through.
No way through for now. Barlak though, oh, he's round, he's managed to hold it, he's nearly taken a trip into the gravel, well held through turn 3 from Barlak, but that is going to spell an end to his chance for the podium. All eyes now to Liam Deval, Adam Maguire and Colin Spork in the fight for second. Jerne Simoncic is going to take a textbook victory here today. But Maguire, Deval, Spork, the final half of the final lap. Is there any places that Spork can find a way through? I'm not entirely sure. I think with each corner that goes by is an opportunity gone for the Alpine.
I think so. The podium places may well be set with 2 RHGs on the podium, joining this man from Burst eSport on the very final lap. Moments away from his first ever Spanish Grand Prix victory. Through the final couple of corners he comes. From 11th to 1st position, it's Jerne Simoncic. Brilliant in Barcelona, winner of the Spanish Grand Prix for the very first time. He atoned for the demons of 2017, 6 years on, by winning by 6 seconds ahead of Adam Maguire. Liam Deval third ahead of Spork and Burlak, who join him in the top 10. Oh, and Jordan slows down on the last lap, and I think gives the position over to Siebel. There, Denahan couldn't quite get there. That was all very orchestrated and very close for 8th place at the end of that race. Sluter will get up to 11th after starting down in 20th. Mika Hakimi with his best result in the World Championship today with 12th position, as Murtek gains more than 10 positions as well to get up into 13th. It was a very slow burner, that one, Zach. It was a very long and slow crescendo, but it did deliver in spades in the end.
It did. It was an absolute banger of a race. It was one of those that you had the potential of throughout the entirety. I mean, it all started in qualifying with how insanely close it was. But then we went to the race and the strategical developments all throughout each and every single one of those 66 laps. While we didn't see out and out, side-by-side racing, getting their elbows out for the most part for the lead, it was all done in the pit lane. Jerne Simoncic takes the top spot.
There it is, 2 RHGs behind, 2 Alpines as well inside the top 5. Jonas Praksuk was quite lonely towards the end. He finishes 6th ahead of Yannick Bock, who we didn't get to see over the line. Siebel just beat Jordan to the line, and we'll have to find out what happened there because it was all very odd. Jake Denahan, 10th place here, means he will lose that championship lead here today. You won't be surprised to learn, but neither will he, I suppose. Mark Sluter, 11th place, ahead of Mika Hakimi, then David Murtek. Zolcic and Giordano Valeriano inside the top 15, with Stavros Mudzadis 16th. Jukka-Pekka Lalu was 17th, with Matthew Williams, Martin Mergley and Tom Oldermenger joining them inside the points of the top 20. Johnny van der Neet gets to the end, albeit 1 lap down. Temir Skrovom only recovered to 22nd after his opening lap incidents with Cosmo Prosciutto and Robin Panzar. Darius Andre and Carlos Martin retired around halfway round due to that crash towards turn 1. Van Bucas retired just before that. Sander Callas not long after the start. Jan Grankvist and Tom Lartelu barely made it 1 lap in this race. Well, the Spanish Grand Prix has delivered 66 laps of fantastic racing. Another country to tick off of Jerne Simoncic's ever-growing list. He finally gets that race win after missing out by only half a second 6 years ago. Now he's a winner at the Spanish Grand Prix. And goodness knows what confidence this is going to give him to kick on once again as he returns to the World Championship after a year away.
Yeah, well, he's started in flying colours in terms of Jerne Simoncic, the second at Bahrain, the win here today, leading the championship. And while he did take that sabbatical, it seems like he's firing all cylinders for his 4th championship. In a few weeks' time, we take to Montreal the 25th of June. Mark it down because it's the next step in the trip around the globe for the 2023 Formula SimRacing VCO World Championship. It has been a stellar start and it's going to be stellar throughout.
It will. Jerne Simoncic joins us now. Jerne, congratulations on the win here tonight. It was very exciting to watch for us in those final 12 laps. But at what point did you believe you were going to win that race? Or how much belief did you have that you were going to win that race when you came out in 5th place with still 12 laps remaining?
Yeah, when I was on the second stint of the hard tires and everybody else boxed, I assumed they would be, maybe almost a second per lap quicker. But I was checking the gaps and the gaps just did not change. They boxed, they were 20 seconds behind and 5 laps later still 20 seconds. 10 laps later still 20 seconds. And then, I guess if I can overtake, that's an easy win for me, and that's what happened.
I want to go back as well to the very start of the race because it was a very chaotic one. Tom Lawton, unfortunately, blowing his engine just before the beginning, which caused all kinds of chaos, which you did benefit from. I believe you gained 4 places on the opening lap, as far as I could see. Just what could you see through the opening lap there?
Yeah, I think I gained 3 places. I started and immediately there was like some smoke or some, I don't know what happened ahead. And then suddenly a crash happened. I just instinctively went quick to the right. I think I had a contact with some car on the right, which came from behind and didn't brake as hard as I did or something. So that was a bit unfortunate. I had some damage from that, but I don't think it affected the balance of the car, or maybe it improved the balance of the car. And yeah, like it was just lucky that the car that spun ahead, or like the car that crashed, or the 2 cars moved into the left side instead of right side. So yeah, that was important part.
Absolutely, and it paved the way for a race win tonight. Yerne, congratulations on taking what I believe is your first ever win at the Spanish Grand Prix, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Yerne Simicic there, winner of the Spanish Grand Prix, just ahead of the 2 RHG drivers of Adam Maguire and Liam Duval, of which can join us now as well. Adam, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here as well. Pole position here earlier on, as well as second place here in the race. Just tell us your overriding thoughts from the end of that one.
Yeah, I went into it really I was fairly surprised, to be fair, to get pole. I was like, due to Bahrain qualifying outside the top 10. Yeah, we worked a lot on the setup, so yeah, really happy to get pole. And I really thought the race was going to go in my favour, but Yerne somehow made those tires last and held that pace, so he really deserves the win. And I'm happy to get Liam on the podium as well, so it's good points haul for the team anyway.
Fantastic points haul for RHG, and a good result for yourself, your best ever in the World Championship. What does that give you now for the rest of this season in terms of, do you think now you'll be able to push on for a race win in the remaining races? What is the aim throughout the rest of the season to now that you've kind of got this result under your belt?
Yeah, hopefully it gives more confidence to fight up there, and yeah, I would love to get a win, but it's extremely hard in this grid. But I'm just happy with the result today, and if I can get a win in the future, then I'll be even happier.
Absolutely. Congratulations on the podium, Adam, and thanks very much for chatting to us.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks very much. Adam Maguire, second, just ahead of his teammate Liam Duval, who we can join in. Not the first podium for him. Liam, welcome to the booth as well. Third place here today in what's a good points haul for RHG overall. Tell us a little bit about those final few laps for the 5 of you, all in that big train, battling in the final 10 laps. Just how intense was that? Oh, we can't hear Liam at the minute. Don't know whether he's not plugged his mic in or something. I don't know. Here we go. Well, his light's flashing up, but we can't hear him. So that's encouraging news for us. Well, I can't hear him anyway. No, it doesn't seem that we. Oh, here we go.
Does this work? Finally?
Here we go.
Excuse
Apologies.
me. Sorry. I had some piece.
I apologise. We're having some technical problems with Liam at the moment. It doesn't look like we'll be able to reach him for the moment. I don't know quite what's going on there, but unfortunately we won't be able to chat to Liam Duval by the looks of things after the race. But congratulations to him on third place, nevertheless, for RHG eSports, because a good points haul for them. That's it though for the Spanish Grand Prix here, Zach. It was a good one, as we said, a very slow burner, crescendo and big moments at the end. Great battle at the end, but in the end, a Yerne Simicic victory. Just what can we take away from the 66 laps over the course of the Barcelona race here today?
Simicic doesn't have any sign of slowing down. Maguire is definitely a good challenger potentially, and the entire grid have the opportunity, the potential to compete. I think we are in for an absolutely incredible season. Bring on Montreal.
Absolutely, we absolutely can't wait for that one at Montreal. Make sure you join us in 4 weeks' time for that one when the VCO World Championship will be returning. Make sure you stick around though, because in 2 weeks' time we'll be racing the Spanish Grand Prix in the Academy and Pro Series here in the Formula Sim Racing Pro and Academy Championships. So make sure you tune in for those. Until we see you then though, Mike Yao behind the cameras, from me, Ewan O'Leary, and from Zach Sweeney alongside me. It's goodbye for now, and we'll see you in 4 weeks' time.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
Who's going to break Haystack's world title?
For my Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And look at these two go! Hoy is going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been!